Hello, and welcome to my channel. I am Damien Marie AtHope. In the simplest terms, I am an atheist-humanist philosopher and prehistorical writer-researcher at DamienMarieAtHope.com. I am specifically an axiological atheist. An axiological atheism can be thought to involve ethical and value theory reasoned and moral argument driven apatheism, agnosticism, atheism, antitheism, antireligionism, secularism, and humanism. Axiological atheists can be understood as a value theory or a value science atheist. As an axiological atheism's ethically reasoned and constructive pro-humanity. I am an axiological thinker, value theorist. The science of goodness, worthiness, usefulness, valuableness, virtue, reliableness, accuracy, validity, morality, integrity, beneficialness, etc., etc. We axiologists have a value consciousness. And in general, we see the architecture of humanistic humanitarianism value in people that we see as dignity beings. Places and things are not. Axiology is a value theory. In its broadest sense, it involves areas of philosophy that are deemed to encompass some evaluative or evaluation aspect. Therefore, it crosses almost all domains in some way or another. Now for a more detailed terms as to what I am. I am an axiological atheist, an anti-theist, an anti-religionist, secularist, humanist, rationalist, writer, artist, poet, philosopher, advocate, activist with schooling in psychology, sociology, as well as I am an autodidact, self-taught in science, archaeology, anthropology, and philosophy. I promote science and am against pseudoscience, pseudo-history, pseudo-morality, things that are found in religion.
Hello.
Hey. Anyways, I want you to get into the reading the thing because I want to address, you're going to read it, but I want to address, so remember I told you that Harvard University and the 206 people had come up with a new concept of the Indo-European language, which I told you actually is a little closer to mine,
right?
Farther from what people had previously thought. But I wanted to address this. This goes back to when I say my stuff is speculations, and we talked about this already. Mm-hmm. So what was before was a reasoned speculation off of DNA and also off of linguistics, largely, which was still reasonable because they can tell the root things of words, and depending on large areas and different groups speaking the similar related tongues.
Right.
So then they speculate by honing those in a place of origin. So this is what you understand too, like with the science in general. Science often makes little corrections. It doesn't mean that the previous thing is totally flawed.
Right.
Because obviously the linguistics do point to that area. So it is true that by after 5,000, that is where everything comes from. So that still hasn't changed. And then my theory was also included that also. My thing, it just says it splits before. One goes north and becomes that. One goes south and becomes what Harvard says. So mine still could actually be true also.
Right.
Both of those are true. And so anyways, when the Harvard thing came out and said that the DNA shows that the first amount was in Turkey, which mine would also say, my theory was anyways, that that's first and that's second.
Okay.
They say, well, yeah, it's first, like Damien says in a sense. But then the DNA goes up into the steppe from, Armenia, I think as they say, the Cossack Mountains, but it's near Iran, which is what my theory is anyways.
Okay.
So both those could still be true at the same time, and mine's true in a sense. But so the linguistic people are irritated because if this is true, what Harvard says that it's true. I think it's true that I agree with Harvard that they're first. But if it's true that that's where the language went to the step, then there's a problem because the linguistics has no farming information.
Huh.
So it's like it's split before farming, which would
Interesting.
be it's true that it's
Right.
split actually in probably Kazakhstan or somewhere, just past the what do you call it? Maybe in Siberia or Russia, or somewhere, just in my opinion, east of the what's it called again? Caspian Sea. That's what I think. I think it's split there, and one branch shoots all the way to the Balkans. The reason I think this also is because millet from China at 7,000 hits the Balkans. Well, that's exact same time that they say the language enters Turkey.
Oh.
So, and I do think that is true, that they came from Siberia and they hit Turkey about that time. So, because I think that there's like 3 waves or 4 waves of dispersal from Siberia. One super early, about 17,000 or 15,000, then one at like maybe 10 or 9,000, then one again at 7.2 or something, because 7.2, I told you, dogs enter the whole from Iran, enter the whole Middle East. And I think it's them because they are the ones that domesticated the dog.
Mm.
So, but see, my theory is I take multiple levels. The Harvard is just looking at sort of like the DNA.
Right.
The other people are looking more at the linguistics, which I think, and then those aren't really truly matching up because it looks like 2 separate things. Yeah, that's what I say.
So there's got to be an explanation for that, right?
Right. The explanation is that it happened first,
yeah,
and then which is what I say. Yeah, I did. You're fine. You're fine. Anyways, it's all good. Anyways, but you're going to read where they're kind of disagreeing, and the archaeologists are saying, well, it's good that we're arguing. Yeah, it's good you're arguing, but still, you need to look east. And this goes back to what I was going to say. Neither speculation is wrong. Mm-hmm. And both speculations being true would mean that probably mine's true. Because it split earlier. Because one split down, went down to farming, and the other one didn't know farming because they came from, they barely, millet doesn't acquire the kind of cultivation and stuff that wheat and lentils and all kinds of other things. They have no word in the business for lentils, for wheat and all these different things. So the steppe had to give them a pre-farming, sort of almost like, and they only have one word for farming, stuff. So millet.
Huh.
I don't know that's the word, but I'm just saying the fact that they have a very limited thing really ties more with what I say that it split earlier.
Right.
But anyways, the point I was going to say is the reason why I think there's a problem, why they don't think my theory very often, or they don't even think about it, I think almost at all, is because of, in a sense, ethnocentrism.
Okay.
Maybe not intentionally. I'm not saying like they're bigots or whatever, but ethnocentrism is in a sense that you're used to your own stuff. A lot of people think of Europe that are Europeans, and they don't, and they separate Asia like it's a different thing. But the reality of history is it wasn't really that way.
Right.
Most Europeans that speak Indo-European come from, in a sense, that I believe is more Asiatic stuff. And the fact that they don't want to look there is just ethnocentrism.
Right.
Because they're real familiar, in a sense, with Europe and even the Middle East. But anything past that, Asia, they're like, well, I don't really know much about that. Well, you should, because fucking everything happened over there and went west. Now, what's really weird, though, is they admit that European stuff went east. Well, because that's ethnocentrism again. Their stuff went east.
Ah.
Yeah, they know all about that.
Yeah. It's just bias, being led by your biases, right? Really.
Right. And so, and like I said, I do not believe that, and like some people, I told you again, our alternative archaeology bullshit. I'm not trying to put down archaeologists since doing this like intentionally. I'm just saying
Right.
that they have like specialities and skills, like they have the Romans or the Greeks or whatever. So they get this Europeanized thinking.
Yeah.
Where anything in Asia is like some foreign country, which is absolute horseshit. There's no fucking lines.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Bullshit.
Borders are fake.
Yeah, borders are fake bullshit, and it really does affect though. Grasp. That's why I think sometimes, but they're always amazed by me because I don't think that way. I just don't.
So you're allowed. You're in your head. You're able to make more connections that they may not be able to make because they've got that border bias.
I have no borders in I'm an anarchist, so I mean,
right?
Borders are like I don't even see that shit.
It's nonsense.
It's nonsense. Like they get all mad when I call it Turkey. They go, that is I can't even remember the name now because I never think about it. It's not Asia Minor. That's the Greek term for it, I think. Anatolia. That's what they always do. Oh, Damien, that's the continent of Anatolia. And I'm like, why do you say that? Well, because the Turkish only came in like whatever it is. I don't even know now. Say 1856.
Right, but it's the same place, right?
And I go, oh, so when I say that Native American artifacts were found in Mississippi, should I not say Mississippi? Should
Correct.
I just say the continent of North America?
Turtle Island.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it becomes, but they get bad. I mean, they seriously get irritated at me for saying
That's
Turkey instead of Anatolia.
Seems very silly.
I'm like, well, your problem with Turkey really is because of the Turkish language and all this. But you need to understand, if you look at DNA, they've been coming there for 17,000 years. Those people from that same Lake Balka area, which is almost where the Turkish language comes from.
Right.
It's actually probably something, like ancestors of ancestors that just keep coming. So calling it Turkey might actually be legitimate as fuck.
Right.
In a sense. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't want to get anyone to get all mad now about that. Holy fuck. Once again, that goes back to this stupid bullshit of nations and states. Oh my God. I'm an anarchist. You know how fucking tiring that is to even listen to that bullshit?
Yep.
I'm like, that is all fucking fake.
Yeah. It is exhausting a little bit, especially like now post the Queen's death.
Oh.
And like all the Canadian media is all like mourn the Queen and talking about the Queen, and I'm just like, what? Like, why do we care? Like, this is nonsense.
Don't feel bad. So is America. I normally turn on and watch like at least 10 minutes of news. I can't even. It's 10 minutes of nonstop the Queen.
Like, what?
I'm like,
why?
We don't even have a queen. Didn't we fight against this bullshit?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah. At least Canada has a minor excuse.
And then people get all mad at anarchists because we don't like things. I have to post like why we don't. Here's why we don't. It's not actually that I'm against this particular queen, which I could be, but that's not why. I'm actually against any monarch. Let's just break it down. Actually, any elite. Right there. I mean, for me personally, all of it. Presidents, mayors, all the bullshit. So don't think that it's special. I hate all of it.
Yeah.
I want universal equality for humanity. That's what I want.
And that means there can be no queens and kings. So
exactly. And then if someone tried, that would be an offensive thing. It would be a violation to universal equal humanity. Yep. So that's the like nation states. Should I care more about this one state over this state? I'm sorry. I believe in universal humanity. There fucking is no such thing as bullshit states. And one person is somehow more valuable because they're inside of some line that someone drew. First off, if you say it's my country, the only reason that fantasy is allowed has been through war. That's it. War created this bullshit that we call states. Yeah. Or power or threat of war. I mean, so...
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever. Going back to this, but this goes back to this whole thing of this that I told you. And it's not like I said. I love archaeologists. I think they're awesome. I'm just saying that a lot of times they think with this kind of colloquial or imperialist, without even realizing, because it's so normalized. Like you said, here's Canada, here's America. We're crying over a queen that we fucking fought over.
Yeah, that's right.
So, and then people getting mad that I don't give a shit. You know, it's like, fucking block me then. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah. If you're gonna get mad because I'm okay with the queen dying, or even happy that the queen died, then block me. We are not going to be compatible anyway.
Right. As an anarchist, I'm gonna fucking give a fuck or change. You're fucking crazy. I change for reason, and since I hold a universal humanity is important, nothing you can say will make it reasonable to have a queen. Nothing. You fucking block me then, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. Len, like you say, like that's barring the fact that like there are actual issues with this particular queen. She wasn't an ethical human at all times. So
definitely. And I don't want to make our show about that crap.
Right.
But I think it goes into the same thinking of why an archaeologist could be limited.
Right.
That's what I was trying to say, why these things aren't matching up, and they're like arguing with each other, and no one's going, well, maybe it happened in Asia. You know, nobody.
Because Asia wasn't a thing. Asia wasn't. Yeah. It's
weird. It's like it has to happen sooner or something. Yeah, it happened in Asia, in my opinion. Go look up what I said, my theory. I think that you're all correct, except it happened in Asia. And it's actually two things, not one. Yes, the first one eventually by 6,000 went up and met those people who already spoke Indo-European to me.
Right.
And then when they did, they split into more languages. Oh, wow.
Yeah, it just makes me like you say, like both things can be true and it can still work with your theories.
Dude, my theory actually explains both of them theories.
So it's not even an argument, really.
It isn't. If you look at my theory, then all of a sudden there's both sounds good. Anyways, I didn't do it for that reason. I did it because I understand the millet moved and it came from China, so somebody brought it.
Right.
And the only people that showed up are our DNA. NDNA did not go to the Balkans. It went down to the Middle East, but it didn't go to, and it went to north eventually, like 5,000. So the first people that go to the north are R. The first people that go to the Balkans are R. And R carries Indo-European. Wonder if they spoke Indo-European.
Anyways.
Let's move on to you reading. But I wanted to get the background of why both speculations I think are somewhat correct. The problem is they're not grasping that they split sooner. But anyway.
Fair. We want our first 30-second video first so that everybody can
No, go ahead and read first.
Just start reading?
The beginning, you'll see. I tell you that now it's the show.
Okay.
Because it's like the pre-show all in one. I guess I should have split it up, but
no worries.
I really wanted to address this and speculation and how we can be skeptical or whatever, and then how it sometimes not, because it's not, they're not wrong. It's just they're not grasping the big picture.
All right. So we've got the rise of agriculture and inequality. The hunter-gatherer egalitarian qualities were not present in early agricultural societies. Agriculture enables the production of food surpluses, and this led to hoarding as well as new inequality. The rise of agriculture and Neolithic farming sowed the seeds of modern inequality at least 10,000 years ago and began the prehistoric shift towards cultivation in our preoccupation with hierarchy and the growth of power, i.e. elites, kings, and states, as well as inequality. When the first farmers arrived in Europe, inequality evolved. Forests gave way to fields, pushing hunters and hunter-gatherers to the margins, geographically and socially.
Hold on one second about that. So what they mean is that that's the actual quote. It doesn't really grasp the severity of what they're talking about. Slash and burn. When farmers come, they burn down all the natives' freaking land. They set it on fire.
Right.
So it says it pushes the natives. Well, it fucking burned their goddamn forest down.
Right.
And then once their forests burned down, they're like, oh, look, new farming land.
It literally like pushed them away and
Right. I'm
killed
just
what they were
saying they're
doing.
making it sound like, oh, you don't like me. So, no, we go in there and we fucking burn your fucking entire. And why that's important, because the natives were hunting in the forests and getting, say, honey or different whatever,
Yep.
their things in the forest, and also seeing them as sacred. So burning someone's entire forest is like traumatic as fuck.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially if all your life you're there, and people that don't understand. Even just think of this. Even later, people made sacred things about forests and had all kinds of mythology. So forests have always been a big deal. So the fact that someone would come in and just burn like thousands of acres down,
Yeah.
would be fucking horror, and then put all this shit in planting stuff or doing, it's dramatic.
Yeah. No.
Just saying. So that pushes them out. You need to grasp it, and it led to
right. Yeah. Definitely, it was much more violent than framed in this.
The forests led to things. What does it say?
Gave way to fields, pushing.
Yeah,
gave way.
Gave way by slash and burning.
Seems much more
violent.
This way.
Yeah. Right. But once again, this goes back to when people teach history. Is it really incorrect what they said? No. But boy, how they said it almost sounds happy.
Right. Yeah.
And it was anything but.
Yeah. Beer making was an integral part of rituals and feasting, a social regulatory mechanism in hierarchical societies, said Stanford's Wang. We report here of the earliest archaeological evidence for cereal-based beer brewing in a semi-sedentary foraging people. To Damien, anarchism means equality, ethics, non-hierarchy, classless society, and mutualist aid in free associations, community, non-state, direct democracy, federation of communities, helping people and supported by the people for the people, in solidarity and humanity. To Damien, anarchism means one wishes all people across the earth true human flourishing to their greatness. Self-esteem, self-ownership, self-leadership, self-efficiency, self-empowerment, self-love, and self-mastery. To Damien, all our actions require thoughtful action and should not be done unthinkingly or unjustly. To Damien, we are our best when we remember to value ourselves and others, and our worst when we forget to value ourselves and others. And states, with their elite leaders and hierarchy structures, violate this humanity quality. In Damien's conceptions of anarchism. To Damien, we need the humanity, emancipation of self-sovereignty, and non-hierarchy interactions in the home, in society, and in any government-type interactions. Something like relationship anarchism to be the norm throughout society at all levels, not simply non-statism and some anarchism is linked to.
Right. This is important to me because some people act like it's just anti-statism. I want the family. I want every single action, the interaction between people to be this way. Not just limited to some, like, I don't want to pay taxes bullshit.
Right.
Oh boy, it's way more than that, dickhead.
Yeah, it's way bigger than just, I don't want the government interfering with my business.
Right, exactly. It's
So,
even how I would treat employees or how I would treat my spouse, or how I would treat children, how I would treat strangers, how I would treat friends.
absolutely.
It should. That's why I'm saying it's a whole thing. That's why there's when people like, well, anarchism is disorder, but and then at least I would say anarchism is order, because it's actually putting it back to where it belongs. All are equal. That's an ordered thing. We all deserve, humanity, all of us. And that's why, even like we talked about for our criminals, how we should be treating everyone.
Yeah.
And I hear some people go, oh, well, they've lost their things, that they're not human. You know why we can hold them accountable? Is because we know they are.
Yeah, that's right.
You're not grasping like ethics at all to me. That's why I'm like, what the fuck? But so that's why to me, and I push all the time, is it is an ethical thing. So when I say someone says I can't be an anarchist, I say, well, I'd be an anarchist no matter what society I'm in. Guess why? It's an ethical thing.
Yeah, that's right.
You're telling me I'm going to sometime decide that people aren't equal?
Exactly. Exactly.
That people shouldn't be treated fairly and justly?
Yeah, like I think a lot of people mistake anarchism as we're going to build an anarchist society only, right? Like, except we're living as anarchists inside our society.
Exactly.
we're helping people. We're doing what we can to make everybody's life better.
And that's why, right, and that's why I did 15 years of direct action.
Right.
Because that's what an anarchist thinks. We should fucking help now, right now.
Yeah, that's
everybody.
Right. It's not just about saying like, oh, well, here's this theoretical society that we'll have someday. Like, I think people get caught up in this. Well, how does anarchism work? Anarchism works when I'm helping somebody eat.
And all our interactions, it's not even limited to just that. Like I said about relationship anarchism, I try to do that right now with everybody all the time.
Yeah.
Online, not online, doesn't make a difference.
Exactly. If you treat people with respect in your day-to-day life, then you are doing an anarchism.
Exactly. Because especially if you treat everybody to be universally equal.
Yeah.
And not borders and all this crap matter.
Right.
Then you're doing anarchism.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not limited to like just anti-state. It's like the reason we don't like states or leaders or elite or kings or queens, because they violate the equal humanity. So it's to me, it starts at an ethical basis.
Yeah.
Or it should. And if yours doesn't, maybe you should check out ethics. I don't know.
Check out what ethics is.
Because that's how my anarchism is built. My anarchism is built extremely tied to ethics. That's why I couldn't just one day decide not to be an anarchist. I would have lost ethics.
Right. Exactly. I'm often confused by people who believe like they're on they're on a similar path to us, but they don't call themselves anarchists, right?
Right.
They're leftists, they're communists, what have you, but they believe that their views are based in a scientific realism and not in an ethical framework. And it's very confusing to me that they can't see that the very reason that they signed up for these equal rights type mentalities is an ethical framework that they just seem to simply not recognize.
Absolutely. Even if you said it was a reality thing, yeah, ethics should be in reality.
Yeah, that's right.
Someone tried to tell me I'm an idealist, and I'm like, no, I'm a realist.
Ethics belong in the firm, real life that we exist in.
Yeah, let's just think. Our interactions, our real interactions, shouldn't they be done in a certain way? The way that they're done is thus ethics is then becomes what's real. I mean, it's not that complicated.
I think about like, the philosophical debate around whether morality or ethics are objective, right? And I think about like slavery. Like, okay, so society said that slavery was okay, but that doesn't mean that it was okay. Like, it was still objectively wrong.
Yeah.
So, and that's a moral stance. That's an objective moral stance.
I totally agree.
So I think that lays it out.
Like I told you, I make it real simple that everyone owns themselves. So that would violate that immediately.
Yeah.
And why does everyone own themselves? Oh, well, because we're all in universally equal humanity. So
yep. It's just the truth. It's just the way it is.
And even the UN agreed to that. They said that every person is born with equal rights and equal dignity. Yeah. And thus, how the fuck do we have kings or queens and elite? Or capitalism.
Or capitalism.
Right. Yeah. We're someone in some, because just think. Capitalism is a proposition that one person should have a gorge of the wealth where others have the mild, or the smallest amount of the wealth. Or certainly lesser, no matter what the fuck the middle class or bullshit you want to talk about. The point is that following the equal humanity?
Yeah.
Fuck no. Yeah, well, then what the fuck? Yeah. Especially, just think of this, especially if one person has opulence beyond belief, while other people live basically almost in the street or from paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
Does that sound even close to equal? Fuck no. If you were going to redesign society and someone propositioned this and you had an ethics of equality, how would that ever be okay? You'd be like, are you fucking joking? What the fuck?
No.
So that's what I told you when I was shocked to find out that there was people that called themselves capitalists and also anarchists. I'm like,
yeah, because you can't do it.
You realize anarchism is about equal, and that shit is not equal at all. And you, no matter how, even if you want to say there's a middle class, that are they equal to the rich? No. Okay, well then it's not fucking equal.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, anyways, I don't want to go on and on about that. Our stuff. I just wanted to read that, because I want to show the contradiction.
Fair.
And why, to me, it's always been unethical. You're going to read all kinds of dynasties. Well, the reason there's so many is wars and fighting and infighting, even killing family and stuff. It's never been a good thing. This unequal shit has always caused fucking terror.
Right.
So, go ahead and keep reading.
Okay, so we've got, here's Damien's thoughts on speculations and conjectures. So we've got unreasoned speculations and conjectures, wild speculations and conjectures, loose speculations and conjectures, justified speculation and conjecture, and reasoned speculation and conjecture. And then we've got sound/proven speculation and conjecture.
Right. Sound are the strongest. I have reasoned. Now, when they start to put tons and tons of stuff together, and then it almost is impossible to say it's not the truth, then that's sound. Reasoned is that it looks really good, but you still totally don't know.
Right.
And justified means that you have a few pieces and you're kind of making some logical jumps.
Right. So, you don't have the full picture, but you're like saying,
so
okay, these things connect.
It's a lot closer. Like, how can it not be this?
Yeah.
That's more reason. Like, you're like, I can't see how it cannot be this.
given the pieces we have, this must be the case, or it seems likely.
This is the likely, then it's reasoned.
Yeah.
If you just have a few pieces and you're making logical jumps, wow, it sure looks good. Anyways, the reason I say this is because science does this, and then people are like, "Oh, science is wrong," or whatever. Yeah. Or I have speculations, and they speculate. Down there.
What level are you on for speculation? Right,
because you're coming with these wild speculations and acting like they're the same as a reasoned speculation. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
And also, like I said, I've heard archaeologists go, "Well, this is just my speculation." And I would go, so and how much evidence do you have for the speculation? Well, I have lots of evidence. Okay, then it's a reasoned speculation, probably, or at least justified.
Yeah.
It's not some wild speculation like these, or ones that are unjustified speculations like some of these. Well, it must be aliens. What the fuck?
Right, yeah. You can always go back to the aliens as the totally unjustified.
Like, no.
Yeah. Not even based in reality speculation.
Yeah, I won't even accept it. Jesus did it. Oh, come on now. Or Elvis did it. Elvis came in and took Cory's socks last night.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, I won't even entertain that. That doesn't, that speculation, that deserves outright denial. No.
Yeah, exactly.
There's nothing to be skeptical about. Go ahead and keep reading.
Yeah. Okay, so now we will address the new science data from a 206-person collaboration from 2022 on the possible origins of the Proto-Indo-European that were addressed in the last video, with a proposed origin in the general south of the Caucasus. Quote, stating that more than 5,000 years ago, Caucasus hunter-gatherers from the highlands between the Black and Caspian Seas traveled west to Anatolia and north to the steppe, splitting their Proto-Indo-European language into two branches. The South Caucasus, also known as Transcaucasia or the Transcaucasus, is a geographical region on the border of Eastern Europe and Western Asia, straddling the southern Caucasus Mountains. The South Caucasus roughly corresponds to modern Armenia, Georgia, and Azerbaijan, which are sometimes collectively known as the Caucasian states. It was a scientific DNA and migrations model that offered reasoned speculations that contradicted past held beliefs or speculations such as the Kurgan hypothesis, which was the previously reasoned speculation. That Indo-European homeland may have been in the steppes of Ukraine and Russia, as speculated from DNA at the time, 2015, stating back then that research seemed to suggest herders north of the Black Sea were early speakers of the Proto-Indo-European, the ancient tongue.
Which is true. That
Right.
is true.
Because
That's
they
what-
were, yeah.
They but the point is they weren't the first.
Ah,
That's what my theory would say too. They were second,
oh, okay.
but they split. But how they have it is the people that what I would say the first part of the split, they think went to the second part. Well, I think they did go to the second part, but I think those people already spoke Indo-European. is what my
Okay.
theory would be. So
The ancient tongue that gave rise to hundreds of languages, including English, which matched what is called the Kurgan hypothesis. Proto-Indo-European is the reconstructed common ancestor of the Indo-European language family. Its proposed features have been derived by linguistic reconstruction from documented Indo-European languages. No direct record of Proto-Indo-European exists. PIE is hypothesized to have been spoken as a single language from 4500 BCE to 2500 BCE, or 6522 years ago to 4522 years ago.
and I would say actually that's what the linguistics shows. I think it's probably 7,000 or 7,200.
Oh, okay.
So I just think it's just a little
Slightly
bit
longer.
slightly longer than it, but it still doesn't contradict what they say, because they probably, when it first came, it was a loose proto language and it meant new people, and so it didn't immediately like shoot off, and become this big thing.
Right. During the late Neolithic to early Bronze Age, though estimates may vary by more than 1,000 years. According to the
Which would make my theory so correct.
Right. According to the prevailing Kurgan hypothesis, the original homeland of the Proto-Indo-Europeans may have been in the Pontic-Caspian steppe of Eastern Europe. The linguistic reconstruction of PIE has provided insight into the pastoral culture and patriarchal, or male-dominated power structure, religion of its speakers. The Pontic-Caspian steppe, stretching from the northern shores of the Black Sea to the northern area around the Caspian Sea, mainly southern and eastern Ukraine, across the Russian northern Caucasus. Damien is a rationalist and sometimes employs reason skepticism if justified by reason. Reason is a revolutionary process, as it requires a thinking change from what is preferred to which is reasoned. May reason be your only master, and may you master reason. In Damien's rationalist persuasion, asking the right questions in the right way adds to the reasoned speculations, reasoned skepticism, or justified belief. An ontology question: what are you talking about? An epistemology question: how do you know that? And an axiology question: why believe your justification?
Right. In other words, when someone offers something, what axiology does is value judge.
Right.
And in value, and that term, it relates to truth, beneficialness. It's a whole kinds of stuff. But it's basically like when you judge things, when you figure out, you analyze them. So a lot of people push epistemology as like this only thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's good at saying how do you know that, and then how does it judge what it receives?
Right.
Axiology is what does that. Axiology says, okay, is it good? Why is it good? Why are you claiming it's good? What are its factors that make it good? Is it really all good, or some good, or no good? Or, it starts breaking everything down and figuring out values. And so to me, a lot of people don't even do ontology. What are you talking about? That should be your first goddamn question, is making sure that you're both on the same page what you're talking about.
Right. Yeah. That's the one everybody skips right away.
Which is why, as a rationalist, I can't do that. I tried to make it easier for people to grasp these hard philosophies and say, always do it in this stage. Always ontology first. What are you talking about? Clarify things.
Yeah.
It's real important, unless you totally know. But a lot of times, even then, you're assuming.
Yeah, that's right.
So better to be sure. This also helps really in argumentation, because then they can't come back later and go, well, I wasn't meaning that. Or
Yeah, if you clarify, we're on the same page right now,
we're
right?
on the same page. So we're talking about right. This floods. Yeah, floods equal this, and require evidence in the ground, right? Floods. Okay, yeah, good. Right, now, there's no evidence of a worldwide flood. Done. Boom. Anyways, what I'm saying is, so ontology is real important, and then epistemology is, well, how do they know that claim? Well, you say God did it. How do you know that? Well, the Bible. How do you know the Bible's right?
Yeah.
Well, because of this one person said it. How do you know he actually heard that? Well, because he said it. And so do people say things? Do you always believe that that's correct? Could he have been in error? Could he have transmitted it incorrectly? Even if he did hear it?
Yep.
So anyways, you ask all these, but those questions don't lead to then when they finally try to offer something, the ability to value judge it most effectively. So that you can't, even you use ontology, I guess, and try to value judge something, but it would not be the correct tool. It's like saying, well, you could paint a house with a flathead screwdriver. Fucking maybe, but we just want to.
Oh my God, that would take forever.
When there's better tools, why would you use the shit?
Yeah.
But then again, I try to take a paint roller and then unscrew a screw.
Yeah.
I'm not saying axiology works for everything else fucking either, because that's not what it's meant for.
Right. It's not epistemology. It's not
epistemology. So it has this. But boy, value judging, fuck.
Yeah.
You can kick some ass with some axiology, but not in its wrong spot, used for the wrong way. That's why I say, really, understanding how to do it, you need to do all three.
Makes
if
sense.
You bring up a new proposition, you can't go back to, well, I'm already started in axiology, with the last one. I'll just
you got to go back to ontology
and epistemology next.
Yeah.
After you get that, then when they give an answer, then you value judge the shit out of it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so this is important too, but this is how you look at claims or whatever in your own, or you should, and make sure that it can match up, that you can validate it. And that's what makes it more reasoned.
Yeah.
Not just having all this data, but being able to do this stages. Okay, what am I really talking about? How do I really know this? And then what is this value of this, what I'm offering? Is it really justified? What level of speculation am I really at? And I feel like people don't do that at all.
I have a sense that your intuition is correct.
Yeah.
I see evidence towards that every single day.
Yeah. Every conversation, it seems like.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, wow, did you ever analyze or value judge your own speculation?
Nope. No, I'm just saying shit. I'm just out here talking.
Well, I thought of it. Okay, and do you think that's how science works? I got a hypothesis that we're good.
Yep, that's right. All right. Skepticism is a questioning attitude or doubt towards knowledge claims that are seen as mere belief or dogma. This attitude is often motivated by the impression that the available evidence is insufficient to support the claim. Philosophical skepticism generally involves a suspension of judgment, but does the skeptic hold that it is the only justified attitude with respect to a field of propositions? Quote, to suspend judgment, one can consider that which attitude is justified with respect to this proposition.
Which goes back to axiology. How are you value judging which are actually correct?
Yeah.
And that's why I say I'm not anti-skepticism. I'm saying that it's a tool that I feel like in the atheist movement has been overused. And they also, they claim rationalism as skepticism. They claim fucking critical thinking as skepticism. They claim every fucking thing that can't get away fast is skepticism. They want it to be the part of their movement.
Gotcha.
I just address this because somebody, my wife says, quit being an activist. You're done with that shit. I'm like, yeah, but some people say things I just go, what? No, come on. Especially when you have a big account and a lot of people following you. And, this guy, he said, skepticism is not about doubt. It's about investigation. And I'm like, go look up the fucking word. It is about doubt. But it's not limited as that doubt is what you should say. Accurate.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a kind of doubt is the point that's important. Is it reasoned doubt?
Yeah. Or is it just blanket doubt about everything at all times?
Denialism.
Yeah, denialism. Are you denying the evidence for something?
Right. So I agree. But to say it is not about doubt, it's like saying, well, rationalism is not about reason. You're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
It literally is what it's about.
Yeah. Yeah,
and I feel like that's why I'm saying this person is not just some random person. This person is supposedly almost teaching other people.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like, man, you're not doing the atheist movement a good justice by saying something that is blatantly wrong. Go look up what you just said will not match philosophy. So I just said to him, try to be nice. I said, well, that is the common maybe use in the atheist movement, this is skepticism. But that is not the definition of skepticism. Neither is it the philosophy conception of skepticism. So you are using a non-philosophy conception of skepticism. If you say that is what it is.
Yeah.
It never came back. I was thinking, who's going to do? Block me?
Damn it. Yeah.
But I wasn't. And once again, I wasn't. And I was trying to be nice. I wasn't trying to say it to be a fucking dickhead. It's just, dude, that shit is wrong. Sorry, but you know. But hey, you know what? I took tons of shit in California when I was there doing atheist stuff because they're like all big about everything is skepticism and everything is agnosticism and all this. And I just, oh, dude, I fought all the time.
Yeah.
And won, but you know, then they get
yeah.
Oh, am I wrong? Oh, so I'm not wrong.
So be mad. That's fine.
Damien, you understand? We use words, different. Like you use the word "cool" at one time. Cool, man. Okay, but then explain that to people. Say this is the atheist movement's conception of skepticism.
Yeah.
Don't make it like this is the truth.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And when somebody disagrees with you, then you have to really make sure that you're on the same page with what you're talking about.
Right. Fine. If you want to use the word different, I'm not saying you can't. But I don't fucking own words. I'm just saying don't say it so people get confused thinking that if they go look up in the dictionary or go look up in philosophy, they're not going to find what you just said. So.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so we got, but other scholars question the 206-person collaboration from the 2022 team's conclusion about the origins of the different cultural shift. The spread of Indo-European languages. Nearly every language spoken in Europe today stems from a common root shared with Indian languages. Researchers have for years traced it to the Bronze Age Yamnaya, who rode both east and west from the steppes, which matches what is called the Kurgan hypothesis. But the 206-person collaboration in 2022 team of the new paper argue that the Black Sea steppe Kurgan hypothesis wasn't the birthplace of Indo-European, but rather a stop along a journey that began earlier and farther to the south, perhaps around modern-day Armenia. However, Gus Krunen, a linguist at Leiden University, says this contradicts linguistic data. The early people of the Caucasus would have been familiar with farming, he says, but the deepest layers of Indo-European have just one word for grain and no words for legumes or the plow. Those speakers weren't very familiar with agriculture, he says. The linguistic evidence and the genetic evidence don't seem to match. Lazaridis says it's possible the root tongue was originally a hunter-gatherer language and so lacked terms for farming. The team agrees more evidence of Proto-Indo-Anatolians is needed, but says the Caucasus is a promising place to look. Throughout, the papers address some critiques of previous DNA work. Some archaeologists have complained that earlier research attributed almost everything, status, identity, power shifts, to pulses of migration recorded in DNA. But the new papers acknowledge, for example, that some migrations into Anatolia may not have been relevant or even perceptible to those living at the time. That's a response to criticisms coming from the archaeological literature, says Hartwick College archaeologist emeritus David Anthony. who is not a co-author but has worked with the team. It's really healthy. In another example, Yamnaya...
When he says healthy, he means it's healthy to debate, it's healthy to challenge.
Right.
Let's focus on that just for 1 second.
Yeah.
What is the bullshit that the pseudo-archaeologists or pseudo-historians or what they like to call alternative archaeology? Yeah, whatever. They like to say that archaeologists do not like to challenge, do not like. He just said it's healthy. I wanted to focus on that the archaeologist is welcoming, thinks it's positive, good even, that these guys are arguing and not agreeing, and they're coming up with alternative hypotheses.
Yeah, for sure.
Not pseudo bullshit. But so when you say, oh, they don't want to lose their jobs, like that one guy said, remember, people, get stuck in their thinking, the archaeologists have no problem doing that. So
it's part of their job, actually. Like that, and that's not to say people don't get stuck in their beliefs or whatever, but generally it's part of the job is to adapt to new evidence.
Now, like we've talked about, I'm not saying they may not have biases that they don't realize, but it is not a wide thing that they somehow reject ideas. This is horseshit. If you give them a reasoned speculation, they are going to care about it. But when you give them wild speculations or totally unjustified ones, they're going to not accept what you fucking said. Yeah. Just like you saw, I didn't accept that the foreskin left off from circumcision and was how money was invented. No. And here's fucking why no.
Right. Yeah. It makes me think of in other contexts, it's the same idea of like people who say that all cancer doctors are in the pocket of big pharma, so they're trying not to find the true cancer cure, or they're hiding it.
Yeah.
Well, that just doesn't make any sense with the way that everybody acts.
No, but I was saying that since he actually said it's a good thing this is happening, that they're arguing, that they're trying to figure out the truth, not just keeping to some bias. I thought that is fucking fabulous. Yeah, that goes back to, I say that anyways about archaeologists. And here's one actually himself or herself, I can't remember now, or their self saying it. So, I mean, I just wanted to highlight that hey, you're wrong. When you say they don't care, there's proof that you're wrong.
It's healthy for them to have
healthy.
A debate.
Yeah, I like that. See, really positive word, healthy.
Yep.
Yeah.
In another example, Yamnaya were buried in elite tombs after they moved into the region north of Greece, suggesting a link between ancestry and social status. But during the later Mycenaean period, in Greece, the time Homer mythologized, the new data suggests Yamnaya descendants had little impact on Greek social structure. Some archaeologists still think the papers claim too much influence for ancestry. DNA, quote, DNA cannot tell us anything about how people shaped their life worlds, what their social status was, end quote, says archaeologist Joseph Maran of Heidelberg University. He says terms like Yamnaya ancestry suggest the Yamnaya spread by moving directly from place to place, rather than through a complex mingling of their descendants with local populations over centuries or more. Equating history, right?
Like we were talking about before, when maybe they went over and had little vassal states, or maybe they did this, and we're like, how about not all of that?
Right.
It's complex. Quit making it like it's a fucking simple thing.
They didn't it's not a line from here to here. It's like,
it's all 5 lines going the same direction, all different ways, and having different ideas. Because guess what? They're different families or different clans. Would you expect 5 different clans to have the same exact religion, even if they have shared language and religion? No.
Yeah, no, for sure not. Yeah, he says terms like Yamnaya ancestry suggest the Yamnaya spread by moving directly from place to place, rather than through a complex mingling of their descendants with local populations over centuries or more. Equating history with mobility and migrations is old-fashioned. Okay, so now we're on to our show. That was the pre-show.
Yes, that was the pre-show. That was just because I felt it's a new stuff, And it really goes back to like how I make speculations and why when other people think, well, I make speculations too. Yeah, it doesn't mean it's the same as mine or science.
Right. Yeah. All right. Well,
now we can show the thing.
So our first video is just where our videos are located.
Correct.
By around 7,000 to 6,000 BC, people began to move south along the Tigris and Euphrates rivers to what were by then the fertile floodplains of Mesopotamia, specifically in the land that today makes up most of Iraq and parts of northern Syria. Mesopotamia, which means land between rivers, is the Greek name for the area, and it's here that early farms began to really take root on a much larger scale.
Okay, and then this next video is, it's a very short one. It's about the early dynastic period.
Correct.
By 2900 BC, kings were commonplace in ancient Sumer, and scholars have used this date for the start of what they call the early dynastic period, which lasted nearly 600 years. The rulers of city-states generally had one of three titles: En, which roughly translates to lord; Ensi, which was a governor or local king; and Lugal, which was generally given to more powerful rulers or great kings. For example, if a king happened to rule...
And see, so this goes back to the ones that it's complex. People want to make everything fucking simple. So this goes back to like, isn't this kind of like feudalism?
Right.
There's one big one, and then he rules the other ones who he allows them to have cities, you know, and then the other, and then he still has lower people, you know, lords. So, I mean, that's why I laugh when they go, "Oh no, Damien, you understand there's a hard thing." I'm like, no, you need to read history and understand that you're wrong.
It's very fluid. Everything adapts over time, and
yeah. So that's what. But this should help you understand too. When people give simplest things about history, I'm not saying they're always wrong, but a lot of times they are wrong.
Right.
And even like when I try to teach history, I try to simplify it. Do not think that you don't need to go read more if you really want to understand, because I am simplifying it because it's fucking complex as shit.
Yeah, for sure.
Over more than one city, then he could be addressed as a Lugal, which literally means great man. A Lugal could have several Ensis ruling other cities on his behalf.
And that's that.
Right on. And so some of this will be boring because you're listing a bunch of the different dynastics and the times. So it's like
It might be a little dry.
little dry, but the point that I want, why you're reading it, people to think about, is that the reason they're changing are usually some disruption. They're not generally. Sometimes they're handed down to a family member or whatever, but generally that stays in the same dynasty.
Right, that's the same dynasty. So now,
Correct.
If it switches, then
when it switches, it's generally some sort of either the people rised up and killed them, and someone comes up, or someone outside comes in, or like they were talking about, I mean, a Lugal becomes, you know, takes over. You're just a fuck you. I want your city, or, you know, or whatever. There's so and once again, my point is that it's a bunch of war. It's not like one dynasty the whole time. 600
right.
years. No, there's a shitload. The reason there's a shitload is not because they were favorably just moving people around, like you talked about before. You know, for people that support, you know, Marxist Leninist as the way to get to communism, that people that get into power want to keep it.
Yeah.
So the reason the dynasty failed is not because they decided one day, you know what, I don't want power. I'll say that maybe in the history of the world that happens once in a while, but that's not the norm.
That's not generally how things go.
No. So anybody who can point to me, well, one person did that, yeah, that's not the norm.
Yeah, that's right.
The norm is generally you kill everybody who's even could take your power, including your family. Or I also locked up family and, you know, murdered all the family of the males or something. or murdered the wife of even in China. I know they did this. I remember reading something that they murdered even the wife because the wife could then could have been pregnant already, or eventually give birth, and they still say, well, she's kind of connected to that old king, so maybe,
right.
They fucking wipe everybody out. Yeah, because they want to make sure they keep power. So this style thought that somehow people willingly just decide one day to give up power. And to me, it's just odd to think that we need to have more extreme dictatorship to supposedly lose all dictatorship. I it doesn't even sound logical to me.
No, I don't think that's how that works.
I mean, I do think, like that one guy said to me, do I believe that there, needs to be a transition phase between capitalism and socialism? I never said I believe that there has to be. I said they might take that.
Right.
I don't fucking know the future. But what I'm saying is that I try to explain to him, even if that it was a transition phase, okay, I still think eventually we need to be focusing on anarchism. And as an anarchist, we don't wait for later fucking society. We be anarchists now. We treat everybody equal now. So even if I was in whatever, even in Marxist-Leninism, I would try to treat everybody equal now. I would not be any different.
That's, I think, one of the things that I've noticed is that for Marxist-Leninists, they tend to view the anarchist uprisings in the Soviet Union and in Maoist China. They tend to view those things as reactionaries who were trying to bring back capitalism or take things back to the previous way of living. When really the anarchists under those centralized rules of quote unquote socialist states, those were anarchists who were fighting for the well-being and power for the people in reaction to the overreach of a centralized state. This is, I think, just a mistake in the way that history is framed. Is like the rebels are viewed as like the old guard trying to bring back the old state, when that's not what it was.
When have anarchists wanted to bring back a state? Come on.
Yeah, no. Like
then they're by definition, I don't think they're anarchists.
Mankovists in Ukraine were freedom fighters against an overreaching rule. Anarchists are always fighting against the overreach of power.
This is a good point, though. You were just making it remind me of something. What I really don't like also about states in general is because then you group everyone under the same ideology, supposedly. Like, say, Ukraine. Some people say that Ukraine is freedom fighters because they're fighting Russia. Other ones, leftists, are saying, some of them are saying that they're Nazis.
Right.
Okay.
But the whole state...
I'm not doubting there could be Nazis and both freedom fighters. Guess what? In that same thing you're calling Ukraine.
Yeah.
So because as an anarchist, I know that you've just grouped everybody. It's like saying America is all Donald Trump when he was running, or all Biden now that he's running. What? That's I don't like when people.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say it's a thing that people do when it's not their own country all the time.
Well, and I was saying that this one guy goes, I hate Israel, the country of Israel. Everybody there is scumbags. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Everybody in there does not actually support the conservative government. It's like saying, like I told you with Trump. Are you saying everybody, all of us, were supporting Trump just because he was fucking voted into power?
Exactly.
Fuck no. There's people in Israel that fucking hate the government.
There are anti-Zionist Jews in Israel.
Right. So I'm just trying to make a comment that this shows the toxic for me as an anarchist. It's an easy example of the toxicness of statism.
Yep.
You grouped everybody in, and now you give yourself the right to thus hate all Israeli people, or hate all Russia, or hate all Ukraine because of
exactly.
And you call this a realist position?
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I saw somebody on Twitter the other day, and I mean this kind of off another tangent, talking about why do people, and they have a picture of the Ukrainian flag, And they say, well, why do people have this Nazi flag in their profiles? And I'm like, but that doesn't make any sense. Like, if you're going to buy into states and you say that this flag represents all the people who live in this country, then you have to accept that that flag is not representative of Nazism, because not everybody in that country is a Nazi. In fact, they're probably the minority, even if those in power have tendencies that way. It's nonsense.
Well, yeah, right, and that's why I was trying to say that that's why. But this goes to the point that I was trying to make, and why, like, say, we're going to read about all these different dynasties.
Mm-hmm.
Why this shit is bad? Because let's even say a dynasty, they make the whole city state has these beliefs. They don't. I guarantee if we went back in time and went to whatever city state some Lugal was running, the king, was running, and said everyone agrees to this bullshit or has the same religion or that would be horseshit. There would be absolutely people that didn't agree and didn't like him and didn't, what I'm saying? But because we think in like this a system of states, we lump everybody. It's toxic. It's wrong. Yeah. It's not realism.
Agreed.
It's like pseudoism.
Yeah.
Anyways,
let's get into this dry ass list. List of Mesopotamian dynasties. Early dynastic period, 2900 to 2350 BCE, or 4,922 years ago to 4,372 years ago. Akkadian and Neo-Sumerian periods, 2334 to 2004 BCE, or 4,356 to 4,026 years ago. Izin Larsa and the Rise of Babylon, 2025 to 1750 BCE, or 4,047 to 3,772 years ago. Fragmentation of Babylonia, 1749 to 1475 BCE, and Babylonia and Assyria, 1475 to 539 BCE. Early dynastic period, 2900 to 2350 BCE, or 4,922 to 4,372 years ago. Before the rise of the Akkadian Empire in the 24th century BCE, Mesopotamia was fragmented into a number of city-states, whereas some surviving Mesopotamian documents, such as the Sumerian king list, describe this period as one where there was only one legitimate king at any one given time, and kingship was transferred from city to city sequentially. The historical reality was that there were often many political leaders at any one given time. The Sumerian king list is generally not regarded as historically reliable, given the exaggerated reign lengths. Some rulers were described as ruling for hundreds or even thousands of years, and the fact that out of the massive amount of pre-Akkadian rulers listed in the SKL, very few are actually attested in surviving evidence from the early dynastic period. It is considered most appropriate by modern scholars to rely solely on actual early dynastic sources for reconstructing historical events during the early dynastic period. As such, the table below only lists rulers whose existence is attested by other, more contemporary sources.
Just give it your best shot.
Enmebaragesi, sure. And the early dynastic.
Let me clarify for people that are watching. Once again, we are revolutionaries trying to use history as a mean to teach educationally why the position of socialism and anarchism makes sense, and give you a reality, background to what our opinions are and why they're valid, and to also grasp the toxicness of states from its very conception. So thinking that somehow we can go back to some earlier, better time, make America great again, is absolute fucking horseshit.
Yeah. States are bad.
So what my point is, we're not historians or archaeologists, and not claiming to be. And so, we are giving you archaeology and, reason stuff. I mean, I'm a rationalist, and Cory's a skeptic. So we definitely are focusing on truth. I'm just saying that things like getting terms right or words right, is not as important to me as grasping the big picture we're trying to show you about what the states are and why they're bad.
Yeah.
That's more important to me. Sorry.
Yep.
If you don't like that, this is the wrong video for you.
And I mean, if somebody wants to like help me out so I can understand how to say these words better, that's great. I'll take it.
Right, yeah. Once again, I'm not saying we're not trying to do a good job. We absolutely are.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying if somehow we make a mistake in that way, as long
And
as
that's
that's
what- and
actual
that-
mistake, factual mistake, please fucking correct me.
Yeah.
But a just phrasing something or not pronouncing something right. I'm sorry. I just don't really
That's
give
not
a
the
shit
point.
that much.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're missing the point of the video if that's where you're
Yeah,
getting
the
hung
video
up.
is not about Cory giving you the proper pronunciation of ancient languages.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Enma-Baragisi, originally Mabarasi, was the penultimate king of the first dynasty of Kish, and is recorded as having reigned 900 years in the Sumerian king list. Like his son and successor Aga, he reigned during a period when Kish had hegemony over Sumer. Enbaragisi signals a momentous documentary leap from mytho-history to history, since he is the earliest ruler on the king list whose name is attested directly from archaeology. The dating of Enbaragisi's reign and lifespan has inspired a fair amount of debate within the scholarly community, with propositions ranging from beginning early dynastic 1, 2900 to 2800 BCE, or 4922 to 4822 years ago, to early dynastic 3, which was 2600 BCE, or 4622 years ago. Most scholars typically attribute a date of 2600 BCE, or 4622 years ago, citing several inscriptions that are datable to that period, while others place these inscriptions slightly earlier at 2700 BCE, or 4722 years ago. Gianni Marchesi and Niccolo Marchetti, in their 2006 book, Royal Statuary of Early Dynastic Mesopotamia, proposed that 3 of the 4 inscriptions typically attributed to Enbaragisi refer to a non-royal personage, due to their lack of royal dedicators and the fact that they are dated later than the only known inscription referring to the Enbaragisi as king. These ideas are also reflected in the publications of the Arcane Project, associated regional chronologies for the ancient Near East. The most up-to-date evaluation of the chronology of the 3rd millennium BCE Mesopotamia. The reign of Enbaragisi. According to the Sumerian king list, Kish had the hegemony over the entire territory of the northern Babylonia, and the most northern section of the southern Babylonia cities such as Nippur, Izin, and Eresh, and large proportions of the Diyala region. He succeeded Iltsadum on the throne, where he reigned 900 years, leading a successful campaign against Elam and capturing Dumuzid, the fisherman in Uruk. There is some scant evidence to suggest that, like the later three kings, the rulers of early dynastic Kish sought to ingratiate themselves to the authorities in Nippur, possibly to legitimize a claim for leadership over the land of Sumer, or at least part of it.
Let me pause for 1 second. So Nippur is this area where, so even though they're talking about, just so people know, even though they're talking about like see one area in southern Mesopotamia, northern Mesopotamia, middle and southern, okay, all have a very similar religious, I guess, structure, or foundation kind of.
Okay.
They pick the different deities or whatever, but they all sort of all relate to each other, just so you know, or people know. And so Nippur, in a sense, is like this sacred mound or temple city that, in a sense, never really got taken or sacked and stuff, because it's like going to the Vatican or whatever.
Right.
Even though people took Italy, they didn't burn the whole fucking Vatican down.
Right.
It wasn't even someone from France or something, went there and took over all Italy, and then but said, hey, I'm not going to kill anybody here because this is sacred land.
Right.
It's similar kind of thing. So
Okay.
Nipper is a big deal, and everybody, no matter what they do, north, south, middle, whatever, they don't really attack that one city. They want that city, but the reason they want that city to give favor, because they have the belief that that's the home of the gods, almost like
right. That's the holy ground or whatever.
Holy ground, and so to do that would could bring bad luck or whatever, and to make them happy means you're going to be able to conquer more people. So it's
right.
It's not like
you want the favor of the gods. You don't want them angry at you.
In a sense, yes. So even though maybe your god, once again, is a specific one that is wherever you're at or related, because this goes back to, like we talked about before, and we're going to have a video one of these days about tutelary deities where they're only for one clan or only for one town or only for one city or one family or one, dynasty or whatever. Specific. That was more common at first. Then later it spreads out. Although still Christianity would say, in a sense, it relates to the Jews. So it's still a tutelary deity for the Jews. But so yeah, same thing. You just expanded it a little bit. Anyways, because in a sense you get covenant, you become like the Jews or related to them because you're born again. Like
right.
But anyway, so the point I'm saying though is you got to grasp this when they're talking about this one city, Nipper, it's a big deal. It's like saying Vatican. Just so when you read it, people grasp this, that the reason they didn't is not because they somehow liked people there. They saw that place as fucking sacred ground.
Right. So
everyone in the whole area did, whether they're north, south, or whatever. So all these different dynasties, nobody sacks that place because it's the fucking Vatican in a sense. Go ahead.
They're all looking for the favor of Nipper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because in a sense that their God may be with them, but that's in a sense the house of all the gods, or how I'm not claiming, so people don't get mad. I've not read shitloads about Nipper, or so I don't know every specific reason or what, because it could be,
right.
But I'm just giving you the general. I do know the general, and this general is correct. That's a special place. That's a very sacred place. It wasn't really attacked and sacked, and people, no matter where they were at, and different dynasties and different, gods that they favored, it didn't matter. This place was, special. But, my thing, people know, my thing is really 5,000 and up, not down to we're good into 4,000 and 3,000, and a little bit about 4,000. But the more lower it goes, the less I know. Because I focused on prehistory.
Right, right.
So, but
yeah, we're kind of getting more into like the existing history and
right, which is where Damien kind of stopped, because I figured, everybody else has already hammered this shit to death.
There's people doing that work already.
Yeah, I wanted to do well, how the fuck did we get to that?
Yeah, fair.
So,
all right. The use of the royal title, King of Kish, expressing a claim of national rulership, owes its prestige to the fact that Kish once did rule the entire nation. Archaeology evidence from Kish shows a city flourishing in ED 2, with early Dynastic 2, with its political influence extending beyond the territory. However, in early Dynastic 3, the city declined rapidly. Embargesi's Elamite campaign. The Sumerian king list recounts Enbargesi. It does try to give us a pronunciation. Anyway, the one who carried away this as he spoils the weapons of the land of Elam became king. A tradition of the Kishite expansion into Susiana and Iranian plateau are reflected in an inscription of an early Dynastic 2 king of Kish named Ena-Il, which commemorates his military operations in Elam. The discoveries...
Right. In other words, the people of Iraq were attacking the people of Iran, and they celebrate this as a wonderful thing. Once again, states are not a great thing.
Yeah, no kidding.
Because they violated other states.
Yeah.
And they knew it was a different state, and they didn't... In fact, they didn't just not care. They celebrated. Isn't that wonderful? We fucking sacked those motherfuckers.
Yeah, we went after them, and we got them.
Yeah. It's like Russia wants to do the Ukraine. The shit is playing a song as old as fucking time.
Yeah, that's right. The discoveries of the inscriptions of Embargesi and an unidentified king of Kish at Kafaja and Tel Agrab, respectively, are convincing indicators of the Kishite presence in the Diyala region. Invasion of Uruk and its ambiguity and in interpretation. While the Sumerian king list, only in one version, mentions that Dumuzid, the fisherman king of Uruk, captured Embargisi, a new translation has been made which exchanges Embargisi as the one who captured Dumuzid. That's interesting. Early dynastic period, 2600 BCE or 4,622 years ago. So we've got Kish, had Embargisi, Mesalim, Meskiagnum, and Elulu. Uruk had Gilgamesh. Ur had Imdugud, Pabdasag, Meskalmadug, Akalmadug, Mesenpada, Ananpada, Meskiagnum, and Ilulu. In the early dynastic period, 2500 BCE or 4,522 years ago, we have Lagash with Enhegel, Lugal Shangur, Ur Nanshi, and Akrugal. And Uma had Pabil Galgatu, Tuku, and Ush. The early dynastic period, 2400 BCE or 4,422 years ago. Kish with Lugal Kinish Dudu and Lugal Kisalsi. Uruk with Lugal Kinish Dudu and Lugal Kilsalsi. Lugal Kinish Dudu and Lugal Kisalsi. Lagash with Eantum 1, Entimina, and Enantum 2, and Entarzi. Uma with Enkal, Luma, Il, Geshakidu, Edin, Mianadu, and Ushurdu. Adab with Lugal and Mundu, Mugsi, and Iganempe. Early dynastic period, 2300 BCE or 4,322 years ago, was Kish with Lugal Segsi. We talked about him last time.
Yep.
Uruk with En Shak Shashana and Lugal Zegsi. And with Lugal Adana and Uruk Agina and Lugal Zegsi. Lagash was Lugal Alanda and Uruk Agina and Lugal Zegsi. Every time I see it, I pronounce these ones different. Was Akush and Lugal Zegsi, and Adab was Meskigal and Lugal Zegsi. Lugal Zegsi and the early dynastic period. Lugal Zegsi of Uma reigned 2358 to 2334 BCE in Middle Chronology, was the last Sumerian king before the conquest of Sumer by Sargon of Akkad, and the rise of the Akkadian Empire, and was considered as the only king of the third dynasty of Uruk. According to the Sumerian king list, initially as king of Uma, he led the final victory of Uma in the generation-long conflict with the city-state Lagash for the fertile plain of Gud Eden. Following up on his success, he then united Sumer briefly as a single kingdom.
Which, once again, everybody always acts like that's a good thing too. So
Right.
one state dominates the other states to the point that now, or city states, so now that there's just one thing, like a state we think of today or whatever.
Yeah.
It becomes bigger, multiple areas.
Through domination, they built their empire.
Yeah. How wonderful. And then everyone became a subject, whether they liked it or not.
Yeah. Yeah, that's less than cool.
Right. And then, of course, as things happen, he got taken over by a bigger one, and they made the whole area under one, empire.
Right. Yeah.
And they called that person Sargon the Great. What the fuck is great about him? Oh, because he was a murderer and a tyrant and fucking dominated and took war against all these places and then made them all his place.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. According to the Nipper vase of Lugal-Zegsi, Lugal-Zegsi was the son of Ukush, governor of Umma. Lugal-Zegsi, king of Uruk, king of the land, priest of Anna, prophet of Nibada, the son of Ukush, Patisi of Umma, and the prophet of Nibada, he who was favorably regarded by Anna, the king of the lands, the great Patisi of Enlil, endowed with understanding by Enki, whose name was spoken by Babar, the sun god, the chief minister of Enzu, the moon god, the representative of Babar, the patron of Nini, the son of Nibada, who was nourished with holy milk by Ninkarharsag, the servant of the god Mes, who was the priest of Uruk, the pupil of Nina Bukhadu, the mistress of Uruk, the great minister of the gods, from a Nipper vase inscription of Lugal-Zegsi. Lugal-Zegsi pursued an expansionist foreign policy. He began his career as Ensi of Umma, from where he conquered several of the Sumerian city-states. In the 7th year of his reign, Uruk fell under the leadership of Lugal-Zegsi, Ensi of Umma, who ultimately annexed most of the territory of Lagash under King Urukagina, and established the first reliably documented kingdom to encompass all of Sumer. The destruction of Lagash was described in a lament, possibly the earliest recorded example of what would become a prolific Sumerian literary genre.
And a lament is like you're not happy. You're like sad or crying or terrified or what, it's not a good thing. You're
right.
Terrible. In other words, whatever he did to the city was fucking horrific and people were crying about it. He destroyed things or whatever. Yeah, good statism.
Sure.
Gotta go. So
yeah, that's right. The lament stressed that the man of Umma committed a sin against Ningirsu. Offense there was none in Urukagina, king of Girshu. But as for Lugal-Zegsi, governor of Umma, may his goddess Nizaba make him carry his sin upon his neck. Alternatively, may she carry his sin upon her neck. That's the lament about the fall of Lagash by Urukagina. Later, Lugal-Zegsi invaded Kish, where he overthrew Ur-Zababa, Ur-Nippur, and Larsa, as well as Uruk, where he established his new capital. He ruled for 25 or 34 years according to the Sumerian king list. Lugal-Zegsi claimed in his inscription that Enlil gave to him all the lands between the upper and the lower seas, that is, between the Mediterranean Sea and the Persian Gulf.
Almost sounds like manifest destiny, right?
Right, yeah.
God gave me this land. Yeah. The Indians were living on it, but fuck them. God gave it to us. Or even Israel. God wants us to have all of it. Fuck the Palestinians.
Right, yeah. I'm the gods favor me, so I get to take over whatever I want.
There you go. Which is why it's horseshit. I mean, not only are gods not real, even if they were, it would still be horseshit.
Yeah.
Right? Would it not?
Yep. Yep. When Enlil, the king of all the lands, gave the kingship of the land to Lugal-Zegsi, he justified eyes of the land. He made all the lands throw themselves at his feet from the rising of the sun to the setting of the sun. He made them prostrate before him.
Right. Now, see, can anyone imagine why an anarchist would go, I'm not cool with that?
Yeah.
Cory is an anarchist. Like, oh my God, that sounds beautiful. Let's call him great.
Yeah, that's right. Let's call him great. I love prostrating myself before others. That's the greatest thing ever. That's my favorite.
Where they go, I don't know why you guys want to be anarchists. I don't know. Does that sound like something you want to fucking do?
Ugh. Nonsense. Although his incursion into the Mediterranean was, in the eyes of some modern scholars, not much more than a successful raiding party, The inscription marks the first time that a Sumerian prince claimed to have reached what was, for them, the western edge of the world. Historical accounts from much later tablets asserted that Lugal and Mundu of Adab, a slightly earlier king, had also conquered as far as the Mediterranean and the Taurus Mountains, but contemporary records for the entire period before Sargon are still far too sketchy to permit scholars to reconstruct actual events with great confidence. Lugal-Zeg-Si himself was in turn defeated, and his kingdom was annexed by Sargon of Akkad. According to later Babylonian versions of Sargon's inscriptions, Sargon of Akkad captured Lugal-Zeg-Si after destroying the walls of Uruk and led him in a neck stalk to Enlil's temple in Nippur. Sargon, king of Akkad, overseer of Inanna, king of Kish, anointed of Anu, king of the land, governor of Enlil, he defeated the city of Uruk and tore down its walls. In the battle of Uruk he won, took Lugal-Zeg-Si, king of Uruk, in the course of the battle, and led him in collar to the gate of Enlil. From an inscription of Sargon, Old Babylonian copy from Nippur. A Nippur vase of Lugal-Zeg-Si. The Nippur vase contains an extensive dedicatory inscription by Lugal-Zeg-Si, which has been reconstructed from the fragments of the vase. Nippur vase inscription of Lugal-Zeg-Si. For Enlil, king of all the lands, Lugal-Zeg-Si, king of Uruk, king of the nation, incantation priest of An, Luma priest of Nisaba, son of Uu, ruler of Uma, and Luma priest of Nisaba, looked upon truly by An, the king of all the lands, chief ruler of Enlil, given wisdom by Enki, nominated by Utu, chief minister of Suen, military governor of Utu, one who provides for Inanna, son born of Nisaba, fed rich milk by Ninhur-Saga, a man of
by the way, a lot of those are gods,
right?
Or goddesses.
Yeah, like Enki,
yes.
Enlil,
Inanna, the milk of Inanna. Whatever.
Yeah.
A lot of this is. I'm just making a comment. A lot of this, he's saying, this God does this for me, and that God does that for me, and I appreciate this God and that goddess, and that.
And I'm the official spokesperson for that God, and
Right. So if I say that this is how God's wants things to be, God says, "Give your servant money." So you need to give me money.
Right. Yeah. That's
God
right.
said it.
I'm an official spokesperson for God.
Yeah, I am the official spokesperson.
So you can't doubt me. A man of Mesanga Onuga, a servant raised by Ningirim, the queen of Uruk, chief steward of the gods, when Enlil, king of all the lands, had given to Lugal-Zeg-Si the kingship of the nation, and had let the eyes of the nations be directed toward him, and had placed all the lands at his feet, and had made lands from east to west subject to him. Then from the sea, the lower one, along with the Tigris and the Euphrates, to the sea, the upper one, he put their roads in proper order for him, from east to west. Enlil let him have no rival. All the lands in riverine meadows rested contentedly under him, and the nation was happily making merry under him. All those...
Yeah, I fucking doubt that is true.
Yeah, that's right.
I have some serious skepticism.
I am seriously doubting that, yeah. You've raised my skeptical hackles. All those on thrones in Sumer and the rulers of foreign lands, they determined for him the divine power of princeship unto the land of Uruk. In those days, Uruk spent its days under him in rejoicing. Ur, like a bull, did lift up its head toward him. Larsa, the beloved city of Utu, happily made merry under him. Umu, the beloved city of Sarah, lifted up its great horns under him. The land of Zabala, like an ewe stripped of a lamb, did cry out under him. Kiana lifted up its neck skyward under him. Lugal-Zeg-Si, king of Uruk and king of the nation, solicitously. There's a question mark after that because solicitously doesn't really seem to make sense in that context. Serves very large food offerings to Enlil, his master, in Nippur, and he pours out sweet water for him. If Enlil, king of all the lands, should say to An, his beloved father, a prayer on my behalf, may he add to my life additional life. May the land and the riverine meadows rest contentedly under me. May the people, like sweet-smelling grasses, spread out widely under me. May the breast of heaven function properly under me, and may the nation behold a pleasant place under me. May the favorable destiny which they and Enlil have determined never alter for me. May I be forever a proud shepherd. He dedicated this vessel to Enlil, his beloved master, for his life. Oh boy.
Was that Biden's speech? Oh, I'm sorry.
A little
I'm
bit.
a shepherd for the land.
Yeah, that's a little bit like self-congratulatory.
Yeah. Look at what I've done.
Yeah,
I signed a bill. It gave a few people something.
Right. Yeah. All these.
I'm a good shepherd.
Me and, yeah. Jeez.
Well, the leaders. That's why I was wanted to read this. You know, and it was boring because you see the similarities. I mean,
yeah.
I'm a good shepherd. I took all this stuff and did all this stuff, but I did a few good things too, and that thus I am wonderful.
It's always about like how good I am and how great I am and how if you just put your trust in me, the leader,
everything will be okay.
Everything will be okay. A better perspective on the political and military struggle between Kish and Uruk, the short duration of Dumuzid's rulership, and why he had no hereditary successors. After the general king Lugalbanda in Uruk, Dumuzid the fisherman, who is said to be from Kuara, seized the throne. Embargisi attacked Uruk, captured Dumuzid, and subjugated the city, placing Gilgamesh as his vassal king. Defeated by Gilgamesh theory. The later Ur-3 king Shulgi addressed one of his praise poems, Shulgi Hymn 0, or Shulgi Hymn O, to Gilgamesh that credits him with capturing and defeating Embargisi of Kish, instead of his son Aga, as Gilgamesh and Aga recounts. While in the historical scene of the early dynastic period, this is quite conceivable, the assumption of two different wars is difficult to uphold because Gilgamesh emerges as victorious in both. His first victory would imply defeat and submission by the kingdom of Kish. Since Gilgamesh addresses Aga, denoting military relations between them in the past and indebtedness to him for saving his life, leads to Gilgamesh being dependent on Aga previously, conflicting with the assumption that he won a previous war against Kish. Another theory is that since Embargisi established the hegemony of Kish, defeating Aga would be less impressive than his powerful father, who therefore served the purpose of the hymn and portrays Gilgamesh as a mighty figure. Since Embargisi was inserted to replace Aga, the hymn doesn't reflect a separate but rather a one literary tradition from the tale. For the 3rd and 2nd millennia BC, this correlation is less certain, but the following periods can be distinguished. Early Bronze Age, following the rise of cuneiform writing in the preceding Uruk period and Jedmet Nasr periods, came a series of rulers and dynasties whose existence is based mostly on scant contemporary sources, e.g. Enbargisi, combined with the archaeological cultures, some of which are considered problematic, e.g. early dynastic II. The lack of dendrochronology, astronomical correlations, and sparsity of modern well-stratified sequences of radiocarbon dates from southern Mesopotamia makes it difficult to assign absolute dates to this floating chronology. The Middle Bronze Age, beginning with the Akkadian Empire around 2300 BC, the chronological evidence becomes internally more consistent. A good picture can be drawn of who succeeded whom, and synchronisms between Mesopotamia, the Levant, and the more robust chronology of ancient Egypt can be established. Unlike the previous period, there are a variety of data points serving to help turn this floating chronology into a fixed one. These include astronomical events, dendrochronology, radiocarbon dating, and even a volcano. Despite this, no agreement has been reached. The most commonly seen solution is to place the reign of Hammurabi from 1792 to 1750 BCE, the middle chronology. But there is far from a consensus. Late Bronze Age. After a period of chaos following the fall of the First Babylonian Empire came a period of stability with the Assyrian Middle Kingdom, Hittite New Kingdom, and later proportions of the Third Babylon dynasty, Kassite. The Bronze Age collapse. A dark age begins with the fall of the Babylonian dynasty 3, Kassite, around 1200 BCE, the invasions of the Sea Peoples, and the collapse of the Hittite Empire.
So when they're talking about Dark Age, so just so people grasp what they're talking about, what they mean is empires fell. That's what they mean.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a time of lacking empires. They call that Dark Ages.
Doesn't sound so bad to me.
Right. It's not that the people didn't have commerce or didn't have stuff. It just means that under one ruler who was hoarding wealth fell.
Right.
There wasn't hoarding wealth and hoarding land and all that shit. It was separate people, living their lives or whatever. It may not have been to them a very dark age, but it might have been a bright age.
Yeah.
But as far as what we consider, I'm just saying that this goes back to I feel like this bias of statism that people start with. The statism is always good. So whenever statism is not happening, what's fucking terror? It's Dark Ages.
Right. It's chaos. It's anarchy.
Yeah. And the other reason why they could call it Dark Age is because under a state, they were all speaking one language and forced under one religion, or generally. It's not that people didn't have variations, but there's a general thing. So when all of a sudden you don't have everybody forced to do the language, guess what people do? Whatever the fuck they want, which means they're not chronology writing it all down.
Right.
So Dark Age also could mean that we don't understand just because they didn't do a lot of writing. That doesn't mean people weren't having a great fucking time or whatever.
Yeah, it doesn't actually mean necessarily that it was an awful time for the citizens of the world at the time.
Right. That's all I'm trying to say is that it's biased often because are we saying that under the imperial rule, everybody was fucking happy like he says?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Take the word of the king that everybody was happy under his rule.
Celebrated even.
Yeah, that's right.
They liked when I took them over.
They love it when I murdered them.
Down to me. They thought that was fucking great.
Yeah, that's right.
They all told me it was great. Of course, I said if they didn't, I'd fucking skin them alive. But hey, that's a small thing.
Actually, makes me think of a book series that I was just reading, and there's some of the characters are kings and queens and what have or lords, and they keep justifying their existence. Well, people need a lord to believe in. They need a king or a queen for inspiration. They need us. That's what they need us to rule over. It's what? It's always the kings and queens and lords that are justifying their own position.
Well, and my opinion of direct democracy is now actually more feasible today because of computers. We could all, across the world, vote on computers.
Yep.
And decide what to do. And I doubt that if we all voted, we would say a king needs to be in power.
Yeah.
I mean, if we all could vote, I doubt we would say all the Welsh should be in the Western and all the African countries should starve. I don't fucking think so.
Yeah. No, exactly. Early Iron Age. Around 900 BCE, written records once again became more numerous with the rise of the Neo-Assyrian Empire, establishing relatively secure absolute dates. Classical sources, such as the Canon of Ptolemy, the works of Berosus, and the Hebrew Bible, provide chronological support and synchronisms. I don't know why the word chronology or chronological always trips me up. It's not actually that hard of a word, but it just looks funny, so my brain doesn't go...
Hey. Sometimes I mess up the small words and get the big words right. So
yeah, it's just weird the way reading works. An inscription from the 10th year of Assyrian king Ashur-dan III refers to an eclipse of the sun and astronomical calculations. Among the range of plausible years date the eclipse to June 5th, 763 BCE. This can be corroborated by other mentions of astronomical events and a secure absolute chronology established, tying the relative chronologies to the now dominant Gregorian calendar.
Right. In other words, and what Damien would say is it became more of a sound speculation, not just a
Right.
reasoned or justified one.
Increased evidence, put it back up on that.
Right. It increased its level of speculation soundness. Sound to me means that you have fucking proof.
Right.
It's just showing how that's how I break this stuff down. So just to really help the people that are these alternative archaeologists, you realize that you start with fucking bullshit, and then you try to compare. Well, science makes mistakes or changes. Science has justified or reasoned speculations, and then they move around back and forth depending on the level of evidence, and then eventually, like right there, they have sound where all of a sudden the reason isn't important anymore because we have more fucking proof.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway. I know. I seem like I fucking harp on that. It's just
It's important. It's important.
Yeah. This little nuance that I'm saying is the whole fucking issue. Why,
Right.
Why they're wrong and science is right.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. What is a city-state? Ancient Sumer city-states. Sumer grew rapidly. Soon there were hundreds of villages and towns, some with populations of only a few hundred, and some with populations of 30,000 or more. City-states became the centers of trade, learning, and religion, and offered people more opportunities than life in the country. By the year 2500 BCE, the total population in ancient Sumer was more than 500,000 people. About 4 out of 5 of those people lived in the cities, making Sumer the world's first urban culture. To protect themselves, small towns attached themselves to big cities. This created a system of city-states. City-states are communities that include a city and its nearby farmland. The nearby land might include several smaller villages.
Kind of like castles and kings and feudalism.
Right.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty familiar.
Yeah. I'm like going, wow, reminiscent, isn't it?
Yeah. So I just read that, I think. To protect themselves, there we go. The civilization of ancient Sumer was composed of 12 major city-states. 2 of the larger ones were Uruk and Ur. To protect themselves, small towns attached themselves to big cities. This created a system of city-states. City-states are communities that include a city and its nearby farmland. The nearby land might include several smaller villages. People in ancient Sumer worshipped the same gods, they spoke the same language, they freely sailed up and down the rivers, trading goods, they hired each other, they made agreements with each other, they knew each other, and each city has its own royal family and its own military.
So they hired each other, so they didn't own the means of production if they were getting hired.
Yeah. How can you be hired if you own the means of production? Yeah. Because Sumerian cities grew gradually, they did not look like cities today. Instead of a grid of streets built at right angles, Sumerian city-states had narrow, winding streets. Each city was surrounded by a thick protective wall that made of mud bricks. Typically, rulers, first priest kings at least by 5,022 years ago, or earlier, 5,522, maybe even earlier, it's just not the fully known. Then later, kings, which still had a large influence on the state religion. Merchants and craftsmen lived within the city's walls. Farmers, however, tended to live outside the city's walls, nearer to the river and their crops.
Which they also hired workers.
Mm-hmm.
And also had slaves at the same time often, if they were rich enough. So once again, I'm saying it's a stratified society. Totally.
Yeah. There's a class stratification,
like
you say. Yeah, absolutely.
Even who gets to live inside the city.
Right. Yeah.
But like I said, even with the farmers on the outside, the farmers may have been a somewhat lower class, but then they would also own slaves and hire workers that were workers, or wage theft and wage slavery was going on way back then.
Yep. You still got to work every day for me and my big farm. So
yeah.
Yep.
And then I take the majority of your labor,
Yep.
Like, I've heard that before.
That sounds familiar, eh? Okay, rulers arise. Life in Sumer had many dangers, including floods, droughts, and invasions. The people believed that the gods could prevent these disasters. To protect their cities, people tried to please their gods. To do so, they turned to their priests, who claimed to have special influence with the gods. Because of that claim, priests were accepted as leaders. Eventually, however, as cities grew more and more wealthy, they were subject to more frequent raids. In such dangerous times, the people of the city-state turned to a powerful man to lead them in war. These powerful men were called Lugal Gals, or big man. Over time, the Lugal Gals came to lead the city-states full-time and took over many of the priests' jobs. Ultimately, these leaders came to be known as the kings, and the land they ruled known as the kingdom. As kings, these men became the lawgivers. It is to those ancient lawgivers or Lugal Gals that we trace the root of our word legal. And that's the end of my script.
Yay! And Cory goes, I didn't learn anything.
I don't know. No, it's. I mean, it's the same theme that we've been working on the whole time, right? Like,
Yeah.
people often, like the state, the rulers, they all think that they're divinely right to do it, and like
and they're helping. Look at the King Charles or whatever.
Yep.
Edward. I don't even know. Like, it's so don't give a fuck. But whoever who's like 80 or fucking 70 or 50 or whatever.
Yeah.
That dude was old. He just got in, and I heard, because the only reason I know that it all is because I turned on TV and had to change channel because I was going to watch the news and there was no news. It's just bullshit about the fucking king. And anyways, it said we need to understand. I'm like, I don't understand shit, but we need to understand that now he's going to be, in charge of taking care of all of his vessels or whatever bullshit they said. And I was like, didn't we just read that? He thinks he's the shepherd taking care of everybody. Oh my God, really?
Yep.
Yeah. That's why we got to put all this gold around him and put him in chariots and hats on his head and give him money all the time. We need to understand he's doing a lot. He's helping us. Like, what the fuck?
And that's why he needs all the gold.
Yeah.
Yep. Of course.
Barf.
Yep.
Well, it's like someone posted a thing that said, here's a guy who says he's an anarchist, but he has some weird title for what he's an anarchist. But anyways, he says he's an anarchist, and he, cares about the queen. It's like, you obviously don't know what anarchism means, I'm thinking, because what the fuck?
Yeah. I've heard... who was it? Somebody said, I think it was a while ago, that like maybe it was J.R.R. Tolkien was an anarcho-monarchist, which seems like a contradiction to me.
This is to me just as much as saying you're an anarcho-capitalist.
Yeah,
that's a contradiction.
Yeah,
or an anarcho-elitist. Like,
right. Yeah. I believe in universal equity, except for these people get to be above these people. No, that's not universal now.
Well, just like to me, like I told you before, even if I could agree with everything that the Marxist-Leninist says, right? We have to have this person. To me, that person should be a servant leader, because there's no way in hell elitism should be a thing.
Yeah.
So if he's there, he should be begging for us and doing for us. We shouldn't be glorifying him. He should be glorifying the society. Yep. It should be nothing to do with him. We shouldn't even know his fucking name as far as I'm concerned. Do you know the name of the water person that's in charge of making sure your electricity or your water is working in your house or your apartment or whatever the fuck?
Right.
I don't know. If it goes down, right, there's electricity, a storm goes down. Those fuckers got to work overtime, right? Do we then shower them with money and put hats on their head? Fuck no. Because you know what? If they don't do it, we're going to be up their ass, not the other way around. It's not we glorify them. If they don't do their job, we give them fucking hell. We're going to be fired or whatever,
Yep.
That sounds more like a servant leader.
Yep.
If that's your conception of someone in charge, well, then I have less problem with it. But I know that's not what your conception is. Glorify this one person to the point that, we make a whole ideology like Leninism. We make a whole thing on this one. See the problem? To me, that's the problem.
Yeah.
A big problem. That's why when the one guy goes, like, if I showed you some stuff, would you agree to be a Marxist-Leninist? I won't even agree to that. I won't even agree that hypothetically I'll agree with you, because I already know I can't.
Yeah. Because
not only do you have no evidence that Marxist-Leninism leads to full communism. It never happened.
Right.
So there's no evidence to show me. I don't agree this bullshit that a non-servant leader is ever a good thing. So the moment you say a non-servant leader is the one that's in charge, I'm already barfing my fucking brains out.
Yeah.
To me.
Well, I have serious problems with just the idea that that it's necessary to have a party dominate a society, right?
Any party.
Like I don't care if they call themselves socialist. I don't care if they, if they're like
totally agree.
The Workers' Unified Party of whatever. Like if they don't act in a way that says like, okay, everybody has equal power now, then I'm not interested.
Well, and we know that it is a toxic thing. That's what elitism is not. Whether it's elitism of people on our side or elitism of people on their side, what does it fucking matter? Fuck elitism, period.
Yeah.
I don't need to define it. It's not a good thing.
And so I want to be generous, right? I want to imagine like that the worst cases of tanky nonsense that I've seen on Twitter does not represent all of Maoists or all of Marxist-Leninists or what have you. But it's still rooted within the same ideas of this group of people needs to have power over others. And if you make choices, if you disagree with the choices that those people in power make, then you can be labeled an enemy of the state or an enemy of the people, which seems to me like rife for abuse. So
and I don't see how that system will end up in a system of lacking statism and all this shit that supposedly communism is. How exactly do you think someone's gonna one day decide, well, even though we know this has to happen, because they always tell me it has to be, you have to have a centralized thing. Okay, but you believe in a time that there will be not the need for that, right?
Yeah. So why do you need to move from here to here like that way?
Or why do you have such a problem with me as an anarchist saying we need to not have that? You're just saying there has to be a transition, and then we have anarchism in a sense.
Right.
So why do you have such a problem with the person that believes in the end result? I believe that you're just saying we have to do something, and then we go. What I don't hear from Marxist-Leninists, I feel like they don't focus enough that this is a place to get to the anarchism.
Right.
They say this is the place. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all I hear.
Way too often.
We have to have a centralized government that does this, a dictatorship of the people. And I always go, and the goal is to stop all of that shit, right?
Yeah, right.
Because I don't hear that focus.
Okay, so then after that, then we go to the good stuff, right?
And they go, well, don't you agree there has to be a transition? I don't agree there has to be, but I do agree that there might need to be. And I'm just saying to you, I don't get where you think that the only solution is Marxist-Leninist to get to that supposed transition. It's never worked. So to me, there's no way of saying that that's the only way to do it. Maybe it's a reformist. I don't know. I'm not claiming that it can't be.
Yep.
All I'm saying is I know that ethically, the goal should be these anarchist things.
Yeah.
So when you try to tell me that I got to accept it, or they try to tell me, well, if I agree with one little part that they say, well, I'm no longer an anarchist, I just go, do you not know what anarchism is?
Then you're missing the point of what I'm saying.
They love to say that. You're no longer an anarchist because you agree in socialism. You just sound like a regular socialist.
Yeah.
Or a regular communist. And I just go, I don't even want to argue that because you flat out need to understand. He goes, you need to talk to more Marxist-Leninists. I'm like, obviously, you need to talk to more anarchists.
Yeah.
He goes, I was an anarchist. And I'm like, oh, go, yeah. So one day you woke up and you realized ethics was not important.
Right. Yeah. Well, it baffles me. It sounds like people who say that they used to be an atheist. Well,
Right, yeah.
then
Yeah.
I think you made a mistake somewhere. Like I don't think that you're suddenly enlightened. I think you made a mistake if you changed your perspective from being correct to being incorrect.
Right, but well, and like I said, even if you and me agreed, okay, there has to be a transition, and we'll even give them the benefit of the doubt. The only way to do it is their way. What are the steps that are positive to get rid of it? I just keep hearing how we need to have this centralized thing and these dictatorships and these forced rule of law. Okay, and then what are the positive steps to get out of that crap, to get to communism? Let me hear that. Let me hear you champion those just as strongly as you champion the centralized state and the dictatorship. How do we end the dictatorship? Because if you're not telling me you have a good established way to do that, I don't see where you feel like it's such a great thing.
Part of my concern is too, like that, like the state comes with a lot of baggage, right? Like they come with like these laws that are already in place that you have to change them all. And you come with like prisons and cops and like all this stuff. And like, how can you be for a state that is supposedly liberatory, but also be like a prison abolitionist? How do you justify gulags or prisons
and torture
under what you consider a state that is supposed to be moving towards this liberatory society? It's
that's a big problem for me. I just don't. I hear the one side and not the other. How the fuck are we going to get out of that? Even if they think torture and all that, okay, fine. Let's wrongly assume that any of that shit is even needed. How do you go from torture's okay to then we'll never torture again? Like,
right.
Really?
And I think that history has shown us that once you justify to yourself that it's okay to torture and imprison people for whatever reason, like, then you will continue to behave in that way. And your state will, no matter who's in charge of it, your state will continue to behave
just
in
like
that way.
I don't agree with the death penalty.
Right.
But it's not like I'm changing everyone deserves to be treated with respect. If we stop that person from harm, thus we've captured them, then the harm is removed.
Yeah. So
then to go the step of then, doing that, to me, it's wrong on our part.
Yeah.
I mean, like I told you, I'm not against, some way of keeping them away from harming the rest of society if they have a mental problem or just desire to hurt everybody around them. We certainly, because other people have rights, I don't think that we can allow that person to do that. But I still don't think, to me personally, that we ever should allow us to think that people are not human and don't deserve rights and don't deserve equality and don't deserve. And they go, oh, well, those people are having good things. Our goal is not to make them have a fucked life. Our goal is to stop the harm of them in society.
And if they've caused harm, then our goal is to help restore what they've caused and
totally
help heal people that have been harmed. Like, I don't want to, like, we have to stop pretending that criminals, quote unquote criminals, aren't human beings. Like, they just are.
That's why I think my life story is pretty good, because I have, shot at people. I have stabbed and cut people. I've done loan sharking. I burglarized cars and houses. I mean, I beat people up. They did no right to. That one guy, he would just walk across near the bus stop, and I felt like hitting someone. I started punching him in the back of the head. I didn't even know who he was. I had no reason to do it. He did nothing wrong. I was just a vile fucking person. And yet, that's not me today. So the thought that we can't help even the sick people get better is wrong. And we should. And I got a lot of counseling, and it really fucking helped. That's why I said I'm pro-counseling. That's why I said about mental health. I'm not saying that everybody is a sociopath like, I became because of extreme child abuse.
Right.
But I'm saying that we should be caring. If you give people, if you try to work out the stuff, if you try to see what is wrong and help them to think better and act better and do, even if we never let them out, we should still have this goal, because it's good to learn how to, and then we should be helping younger. And mental health to me should be not this thing we do only when we're sick. It's when healthy people want to, re-straighten out their lives sometimes. So sometimes you just look a little depressed. We should probably go to a counselor.
Yep.
It shouldn't be that I have clinical depression is the only time I go.
Right. Yep.
And it should be free, because it's a healthy, it's a healthy thing that builds a healthy society.
Yeah.
I mean, anyways, but I also want to clarify that I don't agree with every freaking way that they do counseling either. We need to fucking update that shit too.
Yeah, there's a serious problem with like involuntary incarceration of people who have been deemed to have a mental illness of one type or another, and it can be incredibly hard once you are well to demonstrate that to people who are in charge of you.
Yeah, well, even how we treat people, like the concept, like if I say someone has bipolar, they say it's a bipolar person instead of saying it's a person who experiences bipolar symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
My point is, we start labeling them the disease. It's like saying if someone has cancer, we don't go, that's a cancer.
That's a cancer person.
Right. It's a person with cancer. I'm just trying to make the comment that instead of pathologizing every single thing in a toxic way that actually demeans them and society, and then of course puts shame in people that are bipolar, then are afraid to even tell people, or whatever, or people that are sociopath are afraid to tell people. This is not a healthy environment in general.
No, that's right.
And then constantly, how many people constantly say, people that are sociopath or psychopath? Not every psychopath, sociopath is harming people.
No.
Just like people understand that when they say a pedophile did this, or this person's a pedophile. So a child molester is a person that actually has sex with kids.
Right.
They may or may not be a pedophile. A pedophile may desire to have sex with kids and may or may not even have sex with kids. Right. This is not the same. I'm not trying to do. I'm just saying that how our language is toxic. We act like everything is the same, and then we have just like I was trying to make a point about in the beginning of this video about what skepticism is. Mm-hmm. And why I have a problem with how it's since used or explained. So it's not that it's a bad thing. It is a thing. And I use it. Rationalists do use skepticism. It's just not the focus. It's one tool in a whole box of tools for me.
Yeah. Yep.
And so,
exactly.
So I'm just making a comment that that's the same thing with how we talk. So like I said, when I say psychology, I'm not saying the way it is now is fucking perfect. Fuck no, it's hella fucking fucked up. And it needs a lot of fucking help.
It needs a lot of work, yeah.
and some of it is just needs more, in a sense, I think, humanity in how we think about things, how we label people, how we hold that label or structure over the person.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's almost like, you can't ever get out of it. Well, that's not totally true. I mean, like I said, look at me. And I'm not saying I'm 100% out of my mental illness, but I certainly have a lot better handle on being pro-social than I ever been in my entire life.
Yep, that's right.
And if someone never believed in me and never thought I could, then I wouldn't have believed in myself either. And so that's why I'm saying we need this positive thing, even for people that do commit crimes.
Yep.
And like as one person said before, why is there evil? And I said, there's a lot of packed into what you mean by evil.
Yeah.
I mean, some of that could be mistakes somebody made. I mean, I've made mistakes for, I shouldn't have done that. Just angered for the moment. And then, I wouldn't really want to do that. I don't promote that. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I meant by mistake. I wasn't saying that, but horrific things have happened and people, that's not who they are. That's not really what they would do. But at the moment, some of it was out of greed. Mm-hmm. Some of it is out of passion. Like you're just, whatever passion, sexual or otherwise, or, you want to be seen as a big person or ego or whatever, different passions. I'm just saying. Sometimes it's out of emotions, like I said, anger, or out of fear. Mm-hmm. I thought you were going to do something, so I did it. And it's a horrific thing.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. So that's why I was trying to. We have this oversimplified thinking, and then we run the whole world with that, and then that's got to change.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not good.
Right, and that's why. The same thing I think though is that people have an oversimplified view of what they think anarchism is.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. That's. Yeah, like I think people really forget that like anarchism, it comes in different flavors.
Well, yeah,
You know,
exactly. Once
not
again, it's even more complicated.
Yeah, that's right. Like on top of the fact that it's like this entire group of theory and ideas and history and people doing different actions, and you know, there's also different types of anarchists within all of that, and we have our own internal struggles and debates and arguments, and you know, so then like to just demean this all and say like, oh well, all anarchism is wrong because we need a state. Well,
Right.
I'm sorry, you're ignoring too much.
Oh, yeah, well, even this to me, even if they thought that had to be a state, you're dissing us in a sense of all the good things we do, like the ethical way that we should lead.
Yep,
even if
right.
there's going to be a leader, like I said, I was explaining how when they say, well, Damien, don't you agree? Sometimes you need a leader. Well, I don't know. Sometimes you do, but I'm saying that leaders can be done in a way that's not toxic.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Leaders.
that I am agreeing with.
Yeah. Leaders like that's the thing. Like people assume that leader means ruler.
Yeah.
And that's a fundamental problem right there. Like that.
Well, that's why I classify when I say leader, I say servant leader.
Right.
Because I want to make sure that there's a very high distinction. That person is never to be seen as super important.
Yeah. This person is leading. They are not more important than anyone else.
Right. But like I said, I know that that's not really the conception of a lot of people that promote some centralized statism.
Yeah.
They want someone that gives laws and tells people what the fuck to do. I mean, it doesn't really care what they think, and then crushes dissent.
Right. Yeah. As soon as you start like saying, well, if you disagree with what the state, with the party, then you are an enemy of the people and you need to be liquidated or taken care of. Well, then we have a serious fucking problem, because that's not how things should work.
Well, and in my thing, even if there was such a person, I wouldn't liquidate people.
No.
So already we're having an issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, they're causing massive problem. I'm not going to liquidate them. We're going to make sure they have food and water and shelter and all the stuff that they need. I mean, if that means that I have to put them in a place that they can't harm others, that doesn't mean they don't deserve food, water, shelter, and all their needs. I mean,
one of the things that I'm not a Maoist, obviously, but one of the things I always appreciated about the writing of Mao that I have read is that he often put into his writing that our party, our movement needs to be open to criticism. If we are wrong, we need to be shown it, and we need to change.
That's good. Healthy.
And that's perfect for me. in that idea anyway, right? Like that's how you should behave if you're going to do something.
Right. Just like in a sense, there's, like you said, there's different anarchists. So you're an anarcho-communist.
Yeah.
And I don't really have a exact label. I just use anarcho-humanism. But what I mean by anarcho-humanism actually isn't my label, because I would probably be maybe an anarcho-collectivism or collectivism or something with mutualist leanings or something. But and I mean mutualist not as the part that I don't like the part that's kind of near capitalism. I'm on the part that, about how we should be fucking helping now, right now, everyone right fucking now.
Yeah.
That's my, because within a sense, the mutualist doesn't believe that the capitalism is going to die. I'm saying in my conception of what mutualism, the part I like, is that capitalism is not going to die. It doesn't need a transition. How it transitions, you start helping now. You start creating systems now, and you fucking build the system right inside the old system, and then you make the new system.
Yeah. Yep.
So I like that idea. Fucking do it now, and fucking make cooperatives and co-ops now, and living communities now, and help homeless now. Anyways, so it's that. But what I was going to say is, anarcho-humanism to me, like I told you, just like to me, you can't do green anarchism or feminist anarchism or queer anarchism. Anarcho-humanism says, in a sense, I'm not going to liquidate people. No matter what fucking system.
No matter what, yeah.
And so that's why I said that, in a sense, you could be an anarcho-communist and still be an anarcho-humanist, because it's an ideal of behavior. I will do no harm, and I will help. So these people that are like, well, one day, you know, when communist takes over, or, you know, everything will be great. Yeah, anarcho-humanist, you're going to start helping homeless shelters now, today, tomorrow, whatever. And sometime in your life, you're going to be giving to people. You're going to be giving them money now. Helping people now. Well, I don't have a lot of money. Okay, but you can still get something.
You do what you can.
You'll do something now. Anyway, it's an attitude of, in a sense, how you should behave. And it's also, in a sense, it's atheist to me, because it's no gods, no masters. So it's a mentality that also, though people don't get the no masters, you don't get to act like an asshole.
Right.
You don't get to try to master and dominate others.
Yeah.
So it's that's why I'm saying it's a behavior thing. So, and once again, not everybody might have my conception of that's what it means, but I try to explain this is what I might be, and that's why I use that term, just because my position on anarchism was invented sort of like by myself, and then I'm trying to fit myself into everyone else's, you know, preconceived things.
As you learn more about what other people think of these things,
so,
and you're going, well, that sounds right, but that doesn't sound right.
And so I've had people before tell me that I'm just really an anarcho-communist. I just have a little bit different views. Yeah, maybe that's true. I whatever. Like I said, I'm not anti-communist, but I think my wife is actually more anarcho-communist than I am, but I'm a little more probably in between that. So like I said, the closest thing probably to collectivist. But most of my views really are very close to what Cory's is. I mean, me and Cory don't talk ahead of time about what our views are. No matter what comes up, whether the Queen or whatever. I didn't know he thought like me. I don't know that all anarchists think exactly like me. I just have my own views. It just so happens they are anarchists. It so happens they are socialists.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Cory's read a lot. So Cory... But I also believe that Cory, because of being a thinker also like me, someone got mad that I said I'm a thinker. It just means I analyze things. What I meant by that is not to he felt attacked like I was saying he's not a thinking person. That's no. What I'm saying is how I approach things, I think, is somewhat how Cory approaches things. When you give me ideas, I analyze them. Right. I just don't go, fuck you, you know, because you're not me.
Yeah. No, I've got to put it through my mental criteria and see whether it fits my ethics and my, you know, worldview.
And that's what I meant by thinker, that when someone gives me stuff, I try to unbiasedly as I can process that information that I've been offered every time.
Right.
Even if I think I already know it, I go, I'll still, he goes, Christianity is the greatest thing in the world. Okay, tell me what you mean.
I'll put it through the process. I don't think I'm gonna come.
I'm assuming it's gonna fail hardcore, but go ahead.
Yeah, we'll put it through the process.
And that's what I meant by thinker. And there's a lot of people thinker. I'm not saying that I'm just 100% special, but I'm just saying that some people just don't do that.
Yeah,
that doesn't mean their brain is not thinking. I wasn't making that kind of like these, you know, people are somehow mentally disabled or can't think correctly. I was just saying that a lot of people are judges. Even Jung said that people don't like to think, that's why they judge.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And what he meant is what I'm saying, that people are generally not thinkers. Even people that probably say they are. Do you unbiasedly assess things? If you do, well, then you're a thinker. I wasn't saying you had to be a philosopher to be a thinker, because I think a lot of philosophers, sadly, are not thinkers.
There's philosophers, again, it's like there's philosophers of all different kinds, right?
Yeah,
so
I'm not saying
some of them are doing better.
Every single person that even is a professional philosopher is a thinker.
Yeah, exactly.
But sometimes they get stuck in their modes of stuff, and they're not really unbiasedly thinking.
And there are things that I know I do within my own life that when I encounter certain things, I don't think about them. I just dismiss them, or I judge them, or I have a particular view and I don't apply the proper thinking to everything. It's just,
And
way
the
a
same
person
thing
is
with me.
sometimes.
I'm not saying I'm 100% perfect. But the difference in me and some people is it is a goal
Yeah.
that I hold, like you said, value. It's a value of mine. That's why I'm saying anarcho-humanist. It is a value of mine to strive every day to be unbiased, to think, even analyze myself. Am I being this way? It's a goal, and I'm not saying that I do it perfectly. He said I could be perfect in 10 things, and then one thing I'm not. It happens.
Yeah. Which is also why I don't believe in playing the gotcha games that so many people do on Twitter and whatnot.
Yeah.
Like, because we're not all perfect, and sometimes we are going to not be great at, or maybe sometimes we'll be analyzing something and we'll only be partway through the process and start, spitting out our opinions. But then somebody goes, "Oh, aha!
Right.
You weren't consistent 100% of the time." So
Right, exactly.
I gotcha.
Right. Well, and I've had people try to tell me because I haven't read all the anarchist theory that how can I really call myself an anarchist? I'm like,
nobody's read all the anarchist theory.
Are you saying that the first anarchists had to read stuff and there was nothing to read? I mean,
most anarchists have read some theory, but nobody could read all of it. Like, I'm sorry, it's just not a thing you can do.
Well,
unless you spend all your time reading.
And would you say that I'm somewhat consistent with anarchism, even with not
Absolutely,
reading?
Yeah.
So,
and with what I've read, that helped me adapt my views, and you are consistent with those same writings and those same views in many ways. So I don't think it's fair for anybody to say that you're not an anarchist if you want to call yourself an anarchist.
Yeah, I'm like, but like I told you, anyways, I didn't start with wanting to call myself an anarchist.
Right.
I just had views. I would say this or this or that. This is my opinion on this, and they go, "Well, you're just an anarcho-communist, or you're just a socialist."
That sounds like this thing that I
and so I looked at them and went, "Yeah, I'm kind of close to that."
Yeah.
So it's not like I said, it's not that I don't want to read. It's just that all my reading and focus that I was doing was prehistory.
Right.
But I also had political thinking.
Yeah.
My own views. And so when I would say my views, people were like, "Well, that's anarchism." And I was like, I read it and I'm like, "Yeah, that's pretty cool."
That sounds like what I believe.
I can dig this shit.
Yeah. It's pretty silly to say that somebody needs to read all of theory, because you don't actually need to read any theory to be an anarchist.
It's a behavior.
Yeah.
And so if you, and that's why I was saying to you before, so when, someone said that they got it because they're abused and realized they don't like to be abused, and so people shouldn't be abused. That's great. If that's how you get it, great.
Yep.
I got it because I was abused, but that's not what turned me. Actually turned me sociopath. It didn't turn me caring. What made me caring is learning, axiology and ethics, and then just seeing society as it is, like how horrid it is and how unjust it is. Seeing it in a sense realism in an honest way and going, this is not how I would set up a society. This is not good.
Yeah.
And so that then expressing more and more of those opinions, realized, oh, I'm an anarchist and a socialist, in a lot of ways, like, communist. So I mean, it's just, but it was not because that was like I was trying for that, or I was trying to be. I used to be a far rightist,
right,
conservative, and I was a Republican since first time voting. And so I until I was, maybe I think the first time George Bush, the second time I had already lost the fucking Republicanism.
Oh yeah,
atheist. I started going, how am I supporting this bullshit? So I already was politically was losing my rightism, and it just got worse and worse and worse. And then when I became an atheist, then I'm like, wow, I don't have to hate gay people, and wow, my arrogance of thinking being poor was just lack of effort, or some bullshit. I just started, and homeless people weren't just scumbags that were bothering me for money. My whole opinions just started changing.
Yeah.
And like I said, then people started going, that sounds like anarchism. So anyways, I just wanted to go in that real quick. And I've said it before, I guess that's why when you said you got anarchism because of watching a show, why would that not be valid to me? To me, I got it by
Fair.
around. Same thing.
Yeah. If the funny thing is, like, if a person like I go back in my thinking about my past, and I've always had an aversion to authority figures.
Well,
so it does suit me that anarchism fell into the right path.
Right, but like I said to you before, it's an ethical thing for me. That's how I got it. I don't like authority, but if authority was ethical, then I would be say, well, then that's what it has to be.
Right.
But it isn't.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I can't justify it ethically.
At this point, there is no authority that can be justified.
Well, because does it violate the universal equal humanity? Yes, it does. Well, then I no.
And I guess I should say, by authority, I don't mean expertise. I mean authority over others.
I totally agree. Yeah, because but even them, I don't hold them as some god or something. Like an archaeologist will say this or this and that, and even if they have the sound thinking on it, that doesn't mean that they're having a skewed opinion. They can, like I was saying, too many of them have a Eurocentrism.
Right.
Seriously, lots. Or they have a Middle East centrism, where they focus on only that, And like I said, I feel like, to me personally, there's not enough studies in Asia. I mean, they act like it doesn't matter. It fucking does.
Right. Yeah. Except we know that it has to matter as part of the whole development of humanity.
or sometimes there's people that know about, say, Asia and Europe, the whole Eurasian continent, but they don't know fuck all about, Africa.
Yeah.
Why not? We fucking came from there, and there's all kinds of shit that was going on. And so it just, I'm for the whole world understanding. Yeah. That's how we should be doing things. We should not be doing these Eurocentral, Afrocentral, Asia Central, whatever, or Middle East centric, America or Canada or England, or that bullshit. So, but then again, that sounds like an anarchist.
Yeah, there you go, sounding like an anarchist again.
Damn it. But you get how I get there. I get there because I just look at the stuff and then I go, no, and then everyone's like, well, that's what anarchists think, and I'm like, well, then they're right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
And I really wish people would grasp that because it is right. Just like I believe that socialism is the right and capitalism is fucking wrong.
Yeah. And I think that if we wanted to, if people needed us to, we could point at evidence that demonstrates that.
Oh yeah, well that's also why I wanted to do this, series on the Mesopotamian power, because it is really the first powers in the world that did this, and so it's good to understand about it, because then it shows that it was always connected to religion, and it was always violence and terror and fucking, that kind of unjust authority always hurts and takes and hoards wealth, and when people are starving. I mean, it's always thought. So that's but I wanted to give more than just our opinion, but actual data that people can grasp.
For sure.
So, I appreciate you, doing this with me, and I always enjoy talking to you.
Absolutely. I love doing this.
Right on. So, go ahead and tell us about your show, because Cory has his own stuff that he does. It's not just...
Yeah, I tend to interview leftists. I'm going to start working on some solo stuff as well, but I tend to interview leftists of all types, including Marxist Leninists, including social democrats, including just leftist progressive types who are still within the normal electoral framework. That's the thing I do. I interview people. I love talking to new people, and all my content is available at skepticalleftist.com, my brand new website.
Right on.
So, yeah, check it out.
Yeah. All right. Well, take care.
You too.
Hello, and welcome to my channel. I am Damien Marie AtHope. In the simplest terms, I am an atheist-humanist philosopher and prehistorical writer-researcher at DamienMarieAtHope.com. I am specifically an axiological atheist. An axiological atheism can be thought to involve ethical and value theory reasoned and moral argument driven apatheism, agnosticism, atheism, antitheism, antireligionism, secularism, and humanism. Axiological atheists can be understood as a value theory or a value science atheist. As an axiological atheism's ethically reasoned and constructive pro-humanity. I am an axiological thinker, value theorist. The science of goodness, worthiness, usefulness, valuableness, virtue, reliableness, accuracy, validity, morality, integrity, beneficialness, etc., etc. We axiologists have a value consciousness. And in general, we see the architecture of humanistic humanitarianism value in people that we see as dignity beings. Places and things are not. Axiology is a value theory. In its broadest sense, it involves areas of philosophy that are deemed to encompass some evaluative or evaluation aspect. Therefore, it crosses almost all domains in some way or another. Now for a more detailed terms as to what I am. I am an axiological atheist, an anti-theist, an anti-religionist, secularist, humanist, rationalist, writer, artist, poet, philosopher, advocate, activist with schooling in psychology, sociology, as well as I am an autodidact, self-taught in science, archaeology, anthropology, and philosophy. I promote science and am against pseudoscience, pseudo-history, pseudo-morality, things that are found in religion.